Chapter 990. 990 Twin Sisters. Other than the 9 dragons' heaven-treading steps, Lu Ming had also cultivated another martial arts technique. Dazzling Dragon Spear Art. This was a high-grade demigod-level martial arts technique that Lu Ming had obtained in the Battle of Providence. During this period of time, Lu Ming had almost cultivated it to the highest level. This was the benefit of increasing one's comprehension. In addition, he was focused on cultivating martial arts and was not distracted by the Tao of inscription. He made rapid progress in all aspects. Roar! Roar! A mountain range appeared in front of them. On the mountain range, cranes stood on the peaks, and ancient trees towered into the sky. There were constant roars of beasts. Finally, they came across a mountain range that was full of life. This place should be close to the central continent. According to the ancient records, as long as we cross this mountain range, we will reach the central continent. There was a look of anticipation in Lu Ming's eyes, but he did not relax. It was said that there were powerful ferocious beasts living in the mountain range near the central continent. Some of them could tear apart spiritual god realm powerhouses. Lu Ming did not dare to let his guard down. Lu Ming concealed his aura and rushed into the mountain range. Not long after he entered the mountain range, Lu Ming was attacked by a powerful beast. He killed it and devoured its demonic power and blood essence. The blood essence was used to improve the bloodline, and the demonic power was used to temper the body. 10 days later, in a hidden crack in a rock, a scroll floated. It was the mountain and river diagram, and Lu Ming was cultivating in it. Buzz! Above his head, the prison-suppressing steel's bloodline floated, flashing and shaking slightly. For golden chakra glowed, but after a while, another golden chakra spread out. The 5th golden chakra, the prison-suppressing steel bloodline, had also reached level 5 of the divine level. During this period of time, almost all the blood essence that Lu Ming devoured had been used to upgrade the prison-suppressing steel's bloodline. Let's see how powerful the prison-suppressing heavenly art has become. Lu Ming got up and struck with his palm. Selah. The space twisted rapidly, and a mountain in the distance collapsed. The increase doesn't seem to be that terrifying. According to this increase, if I use it with all my strength, its power should be equivalent to the mid-level power of a low-grade divine martial technique. Lu Ming's heart stirred. Previously, when the prison-suppressing steel's bloodline was at divine level 4, the power of the prison-suppressing heavenly technique was equivalent to the first stage of a low-grade divine level martial arts technique. Lu Ming had thought that the power of the prison-suppressing steel's bloodline would be equivalent to the 6th stage of a low-grade divine level martial arts technique. However, from the looks of it now, it had yet to reach that level. It seemed to be at about the 4th stage. It was estimated that the power of the prison-suppressing heaven technique would only reach the 6th stage of a low-grade divine level martial technique when he reached level 6. Divine level 7 could reach the level of high-grade divine level martial techniques. A high-grade god-level martial technique was a martial technique that could only be successfully cultivated by an emperor. I don't know what's going on with my 3rd bloodline. It can't be awakened yet. At this moment, Lu Ming frowned again. Up until now, his 3rd bloodline had not been awakened. It seemed to be still in the process of being nurtured. This made Lu Ming speechless. The other geniuses had already awakened their 3rd bloodline. Most of the elites would awaken their 3rd bloodline at the spiritual ocean tier. Only a small number of them would awaken their 3rd bloodline at the spirit embryo tier. Now, Lu Ming's cultivation had already reached the 8th level of the spirit embryo realm, but his 3rd bloodline had yet to awaken. This made him a little depressed. Could it be that the 3rd bloodline could only be awakened when one reached the spiritual god realm? In history, it was extremely rare to awaken the 3rd bloodline in the spiritual god realm. Ah, forget it. It's useless to think so much. Let nature take its course. I have the bloodline of the 9 dragons. Even if I can't awaken the 3rd bloodline, I won't be worse than others. Lu Ming thought to himself. Then, he exited the mountain and river diagram and continued to move forward in the mountain range. Central Continent, the easternmost land, was the chaotic territory near the East Barren. On the edge of a majestic mountain range, two young women were carefully running through the forest. These two women were about 20 years old and looked almost identical. One look and one could tell that they were twin sisters. The two of them had jade-like skin and unparalleled beauty. Both of them were extremely beautiful, but at this moment, both of them had a serious expression on their faces. They concealed their auras and moved forward carefully. "Achoo, be careful, don't run too fast," one of the women whispered. "Lei, don't worry. This is just the outer area of the chaotic mountains. There won't be any strong beasts here." The other girl was more lively. She smiled and said in a low voice, "We've been here for a few days, but we haven't seen the poisonous rainbow snake. We don't know where it is either." The woman called Lei sighed in a low voice. "Lei, do you think that's why we can't find the poisonous rainbow snake because we're on the outskirts of the mountain range? If we can't find the poisonous rainbow snake, then we can't find the accompanying spirit medicine to cure Grandpa's poison. Lei, should we go deeper into the mountain range?" said Qing. "Yes, that's the only way. But don't be reckless, Qing. We'll slow down," Miss Lei said. Then, the two girls carefully went deeper into the mountain range, carefully avoiding a few powerful beasts. Roar! Suddenly, a deafening roar of a beast came from the depths of the mountain. The roar of a beast sounded like a thunderclap. A vast demonic power soared into the sky, and a terrifying spatial crack appeared in the sky. The clouds were directly swallowed by the spatial crack and disappeared without a trace. Roar! Then, the roars sounded again, as if they were filled with endless anger. The entire mountain range trembled and made a loud rumbling sound. Even though they were separated by a great distance, the two girls' faces still changed greatly. They immediately turned white, without a trace of blood. It's a level 8 vicious beast. It's enraged. Lei, let's go. Miss Zhen's voice trembled. She didn't have the courage as before, and she pulled Miss Lei and ran back. Ow! Roar! At this moment, within the mountain range, the roars of the beasts could be heard. The roars of the beasts rang out one after another, and they seemed to be extremely frightened. The two little girls were even more shocked. They knew that the king of the mountain range was furious, and the beasts were frightened. Many powerful vicious beasts were probably going to run away in all directions, making it extremely dangerous. The two little girls used all their strength to run out of the mountain range. Boom! 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 In all directions, there were fierce beasts running away. Fortunately, these fierce beasts seemed to be scared out of their wits and ignored the two sisters, so the two sisters were safe. Roar! Roar! That earth-shaking roar came from the depths of the forest. It was earth-shattering and its aura was terrifying. The two sisters ran for an hour before they ran out of the mountain range and arrived outside. At this time, the two of them let out a long sigh of relief. They were safe for the time being. Lei, what's going on? Why would a level 8 vicious beast suddenly become so angry? Seeing that she was out of danger, Miss Zhen's mind became active again, and her big eyes were full of curiosity. I don't know. Luo, it seems like we can't find the poisonous rainbow snake. What about Grandpa's poison? Lei sighed, and the two sisters' eyes dimmed again. Their cultivation was too low, so they didn't dare to go too deep into the mountain range. There's someone in front. Suddenly, Qing exclaimed. Chapter 991. 991 to the Central Continent. A black-robed young man rushed out of the forest in front of them. His body was in tatters and blood was flowing out. On the black-robed young man's shoulder was a little turtle, its claws gripping tightly onto the young man's shoulder. Its eyes were rolled back, and its body was twitching. Bang! The black-robed young man's speed was extremely fast. He rushed out of the forest and then fell heavily to the ground, stirring up a cloud of dust. Then, he just lay there. Dandan, I was almost killed by you this time. The young man lying on the ground said weakly. This young man was Lu Ming, who had crossed the Chaos Realm. At this moment, another 7 days had passed since Lu Ming's prison-suppressing steel bloodline had leveled up. Just as they were about to cross the mountain range and enter the central continent, they encountered a powerful beast. It was a second-tier 8th level beast, equivalent to a second-level spiritual god. Originally, they could have gone around this beast, but they just happened to discover that this beast was guarding 2 Holy Spirit ginseng. These 2 saints' spiritual ginsengs were the highest grade of level 8 spiritual herbs. Even a peak spiritual god would be moved by them. Therefore, Dandan was tempted. She secretly went to dig up the 2 Holy Spirit ginseng but was discovered by the powerful beast. The beast went crazy and chased after Dandan. In the end, even Lu Ming was implicated. Lu Ming had used all his means to escape from the ferocious beast's demonic claws. However, he had also suffered severe injuries. Many of his bones were broken and his internal organs were injured. There was not much vital energy left and his breathing was extremely weak. Dandan wasn't any better. After being hit by the fierce beast a few times, she was almost blown apart. At this time, her whole body was twitching non-stop. Spiritual god-level existences were too powerful. Lu Ming was not their match at all. Take the human race's martial artists as an example. Those who could step into the spiritual god realm were at least divine-level prodigies. Most of them had awakened the second-class divine level, and some had even awakened the third-class divine level or above bloodline. It was no problem for such a prodigy to cross 2 to 3 realms to fight an enemy in the spirit embryo realm. It was the same for fierce beasts and demonic beasts. They all had a few % of the bloodline of a divine beast in their bodies, and they were extremely powerful. In addition, there was a huge chasm between the spirit embryo realm and the spiritual god realm. Lu Ming's current cultivation was only at the 8th level of the spirit embryo realm, so it was difficult for him to cross such a huge gap. During the War of Providence, the three-eyed god race fought for the last totem pillar in the three-eyed god race's royal city. The reason why the Emperor God and the others were able to stop the three-eyed god race's most powerful being was that the three-eyed god race's expert had yet to fully enter the spiritual god realm. He was only half a step into the spiritual god realm, which was why the Emperor God and the others were able to fight him. In that world, the three-eyed god race would be suppressed by the laws of that world the moment they entered the spiritual god realm. If he was a spiritual god expert, the divine emperor and the others would not have been able to stop him. Furthermore, the ferocious beast that Lu Ming had faced previously was equivalent to a second-level spiritual god realm, which was even more powerful. It was already very difficult for Lu Ming to escape with his life. Lu Ming, don't blame me. We'll each take one of the 2 Holy Spirit ginsengs. Dandan's body twitched as she spoke. Lu Ming could not be bothered to say anything more to Eggy. He just lay there, closed his eyes, and channeled his energy to heal his injuries. Not far away, 2 young women were watching curiously. Lei, there's still some sound. He doesn't seem to be dead. Let's go and take a look. See if we can help him, said A Qing. Yes, A Qing, be careful. In comparison, Miss Ah Lei was more timid and shy. The 2 young ladies approached Lu Ming carefully. When they saw that Lu Ming's eyes were closed and his body was covered in blood, a hint of pity flashed in their eyes. He seems to be seriously injured, but he's still breathing. He seems to be unconscious. Why don't we carry him back to the city? If he's left here alone, he'll definitely be eaten by the beasts. Sure. Ah Lei nodded. The two young ladies were kind-hearted and they walked toward Lu Ming. At this moment, Lu Ming suddenly opened his eyes. The two young ladies shrieked in fear and retreated hurriedly, their faces as white as snow. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. These two young ladies were really timid. However, Lu Ming was a little surprised that they dared to come to this dangerous mountain range. Don't be afraid, I have no ill intentions. Lu Ming forced himself to stand up and smiled. Lu Ming used his mind to scan the area and realized that the two young ladies' cultivation levels were at the perfected spiritual ocean realm. They could be considered geniuses in the Eastern Barren Territory. Don't be afraid, Lei. His cultivation is probably not as good as ours. Qing said in a small voice. At this moment, Lu Ming's aura was extremely weak. He gave off the feeling that his cultivation level was indeed low and he was not even comparable to the two young ladies. Lu Ming naturally heard this but he did not defend himself. Were you injured by a demonic beast in the mountain range? With your cultivation level, you still dare to go deeper than us. Don't you know it's very dangerous? Miss Qing blinked her eyes and said. I have no other choice but to go deep into the mountains. Lu Ming casually gave a reason. Oh, it seems like you've entered the mountains for an important matter just like us. And, do you know why that level 8 vicious beast went crazy? Qing asked curiously. Naturally, she did not expect that the level 8 beast's rage was because of Lu Ming. She thought that Lu Ming had been injured by other weaker beasts. I don't know either. Lu Ming shook his head. Well, forget it. I see that you are quite seriously injured. Where are you from? Do you need us to send you back? Qing asked. After chatting for a while, the two young ladies felt that Lu Ming did not seem to be a bad person. They became bolder and walked closer to Lu Ming to chat with him. My home is far from here, I'm afraid I can't go back for the time being. Lu Ming smiled. Oh, in that case, why don't you come with us to the Lishui city first? It's the closest to here, so you can go there to recuperate. It's still not safe here, and I don't know if the beast will go crazy again. Qing said. Good. Thank you both. Lu Ming pondered for a moment and nodded in agreement. It was Lu Ming's first time in the central continent. He was unfamiliar with the people and the place. He really needed to find a place to stay temporarily and understand the situation in the central continent before making his next plans. Moreover, he could also find a place to recuperate, killing two birds with one stone. What's your name? Qing asked. I'm Lu Shaoqing. May I know your names? Lu Ming casually said a name. There were probably spies from the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace in the central continent. Lu Ming did not intend to use his real name. I'm Xiao Yi, you can call me Ah Yi. This is my sister Xiao Lei, you can call her Ah Lei. Qing said. Lu Ming realized that An was lively, cheerful, and talkative. On the other hand, Lei was a lot more shy. She did not talk much and only sized Lu Ming up curiously. Hearing Ah Luo's words, Ah Lei whispered, I'm clearly the older sister. Ah Luo glared at her. Ah Lei, you're talking nonsense. I'm clearly your sister. I've always been the one taking care of you. But Grandpa said I was born a moment earlier than you. Ah Lei retorted in a low voice. Grandpa, that's nonsense. Humph, I don't care. I'm the older sister. Lu Shaoqing, just remember that I'm the older sister. Qing pouted. Lu Ming found it a little funny. These two young girls were really naive and did not have many schemes. Chapter 992. 992 Chapter 992 Lishui City. Miss Lei, please wait for me for a while. I'll go to Lishui City with you when my injuries are more stable. Lu Ming said. And, you should recuperate. We'll help you keep a lookout. An said. She then walked to the side with Lei to keep a lookout for Lu Ming. Lu Ming smiled and closed his eyes to recuperate. After a period of cultivation, Lu Ming's body had reached the peak of the 8th grade and his recovery ability was extremely shocking. Combined with the true war dragon technique, he began to recover at an extremely fast speed. After half an hour, Lu Ming's injuries had stabilized and he had recovered 20% of his essential core. Of course, with Kuina Lei's cultivation, they could not tell Lu Ming's cultivation realm. Miss Lei, I'm almost done. We can go now. Lu Ming said. So fast? Qing asked in surprise. I'm not too seriously injured. I'll recuperate in Lishui City. Lu Ming said. Oh, that's good. Is your little turtle alright? Then looked at Dandan who was on Lu Ming's shoulder. At this time, Dandan was still twitching. It's fine, this guy will be fine after twitching. Lu Ming said casually, which made Dandan gnash her teeth. What did he mean by just twitching? Then, the three of them took to the air and left for Lishui City. After flying for tens of thousands of miles, what appeared in front of them were large rivers and lakes that dotted the ground. From the sky, they looked like pearls. This was a water village. The three of them chatted as they hurried on their way. Lu Ming roughly knew the location of this place. The strongest force in this water village was the Floating Mountain Sect. The Floating Mountain Sect was one of the overlords of the Central Continent. In fact, Lu Ming had already gained a general understanding of the Central Continent before he came. The Central Continent was extremely vast, at least 7 to 8 times larger than the East Continent. Furthermore, the land was blessed with many talents. There were countless paradises and blessed lands. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth was rich. The practice of cultivation was flourishing. There had always been countless geniuses and experts. It was the center of the divine wilderness continent. In the Central Continent, whether it was the number of geniuses or the quality, the East Continent could not compare. The ancient Saint dynasty of the Central Continent was undoubtedly the most ancient and largest power in the Central Continent. In fact, the Central Continent had been completely under the rule of the ancient Saint dynasty tens of thousands of years ago. The ancient Saint dynasty had a long history, and it was said that it had been passed down for 1,000,000 years. In this 1,000,000 years, the Central Continent had been completely under the rule of the ancient Saint dynasty. It was prosperous and extremely powerful. There were many geniuses and powerful cultivators, far above the East Baron. At that time, not only the Central Continent, even the East Baron, the South Nether and the other 4 territories had to bow down to the ancient Saint dynasty. However, all of this had changed drastically tens of thousands of years ago. Tens of thousands of years ago, an unrivaled figure had appeared in the Xia clan of the ancient Saint dynasty. He had started a rebellion, and an unprecedented civil war had broken out in the ancient Saint dynasty. That battle was earth-shattering. Countless experts were killed or injured, and even many emperors fell. After that battle, the power of the ancient Saint dynasty's royal family declined rapidly and they could no longer control the vast Central Continent. After that, Central Continent entered the era of various emperors. For tens of thousands of years, the various overlord forces had ruled their own territories and fought for supremacy. In addition to these overlord forces, there were countless smaller forces that relied on the overlord forces and fought endlessly. The Central Continent was more chaotic than the East Continent. The Floating Mountain Sect occupied the vast territory of the eastern part of the Central Continent. It was an overlord of a region and had an emperor overseeing it. Its strength was incomparably powerful and wasn't any weaker than the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace or the Heavenly Corpse Sect. Lishui City was a city under the jurisdiction of the Floating Mountain Sect, and the Shao family, where the 2 sisters were from, was a small family in the city. The 2 sisters of the Shao family were very innocent and did not have any schemes. They felt that Lu Ming was a good person and treated him as a friend. They would answer whatever Lu Ming asked. During the conversation, Lu Ming learned that their mother had passed away after they were born. Their father had also passed away a few years ago when he was out adventuring. They had been following their grandfather, the head of the Xiao family, Xiao Zhan. But some time ago, Xiao Zhan entered the chaotic mountains in search of an elixir. Unexpectedly, he was bitten by a poisonous rainbow snake and was still in a coma. The two sisters had come to the chaotic mountains to find the nest of the poisonous rainbow snake and the accompanying elixir to save Xiao Zhan. Unfortunately, after many days of searching, they had not even found the shadow of the poisonous rainbow snake. It was only later that they met Lu Ming. "Maybe I can cure your grandfather's poison," Lu Ming said. This caused the Xiao sisters to pause, and their eyes widened. Can you really save him?" The alchemist said that my grandfather's poison has already spread to his entire body. Unless you have the accompanying spirit medicine of the poisonous rainbow snake, it will be difficult to save him. As they spoke, the two sisters' eyes began to turn red again. "I've cultivated a secret technique and I'm quite experienced in detoxification," Lu Ming said. The bloodline of the 9 dragons could devour all kinds of poisonous gas and poison. When others were poisoned, they could also devour the poisonous gas. "Really? You're not allowed to side with us." Anne's eyes were filled with hope. The two sisters looked at Lu Ming without blinking. "N." Lu Ming nodded solemnly. "That's great." The two sisters smiled happily. 2 days later, Li Water City appeared in front of them. Lishui City was very magnificent. Although it could not be compared to a giant city like 9 dragons, it was still a big deal and was extremely wide. On the streets, people came and went, each one of them in high spirits and full of energy. The number of experts was very large. Lu Ming had only strolled along one street and he had already discovered many spirit embryo realm experts. There was a forest of shops on both sides of the street. Lu Ming looked around curiously. The customs of the central continent were very different from that of the east continent. After passing through a few streets, a huge mansion appeared in front of them. They had arrived at the Xiao family. The two sisters were the precious granddaughters of the Xiao family's master. Naturally, they did not stop Lu Ming from following the two sisters into the Xiao family. However, when he walked past a courtyard, he was stopped by a young man. The young man was about 25 or 26 years old. He was wearing a long green robe, a jade belt around his waist, and a pair of golden boots. He exuded a rich and powerful aura. Desolate Ning. Upon seeing this young man, the two sisters frowned slightly. "Ah Luo, Ah Lei, where have you been these past few days?" The young man asked. "It's none of your business where we go." Then pouted and said. "Why should I care? Don't you know that the future of House Xiao is at stake right now? If anything happens to you, you won't be able to bear the consequences." Desolate Ning's eyes turned cold as he said. What future of the Xiao family?" "It's your future," Qing said sarcastically. "I can't be bothered to talk to you." Desolate Ning opened the fan in his hand and started to wave it gently. Then, he turned to look at Lu Ming and frowned. "Who is this person?" "Achoo, don't bring any Tom, Dick, or Harry into the family. Others will laugh at you if they know. This is a friend of mine and Lei's. He's here to treat his injuries. It's none of your business. Also, Big Brother Lu can cure grandfather's poison. He'll be an important guest of the Xiao family." Qing raised her head and said proudly. Chapter 993. 993 Being Made Difficult. Lu Ming stood at the side and watched quietly without saying a word. Ah Lei explained to him in a low voice. This man was their second uncle's son, their cousin, and they had never been on good terms. "It can cure grandfather's poison." "Nonsense, many alchemists couldn't cure it, so how could this brat?" "Don't be fooled by this kid. Desolate Ning raised his eyebrows and shouted. Humph, Big Brother Lu is our friend. Why would he lie to us? Besides, if we don't let Big Brother Lu try, how would we know if he can't do it? Alright, get out of the way. Having said that, Qing pulled Lu Ming and walked around Desolate Ning, heading inside. Desolate Ning's face was gloomy. Then led Lu Ming past a few courtyards and finally came to a guest room. Brother Lu, you can stay here and recuperate. It won't be too late to cure my grandfather's poison after you've recovered. All right. Lu Ming nodded. After chatting for a while more, the two sisters left. Lu Ming entered the room and closed the door. He sat cross-legged on the bed and began to channel his energy to heal his injuries. The War Dragon true energy circulated throughout his body and seeped deep into his body. Lu Ming's injuries were healing rapidly. In fact, during the 2 days on the road, Lu Ming's body had been recovering on its own. By now, he had recovered a lot. Bang! More than 10 minutes later, Lu Ming was recuperating when the door was pushed open. A young man was standing at the door with a cold face. Lu Ming's body trembled slightly. He opened his eyes, and a cold glint flashed across them. Desolate Ning. The one who pushed open his door was Desolate Ning. Fortunately, Lu Ming's ability to control himself was strong enough. He was also distracted and did not devote himself to it. Otherwise, if he was disturbed during his cultivation, he would be injured at the very least, or even suffer from qi deviation in the worst case. What do you want? Lu Ming asked. Kid, what's your purpose in coming to the Shao family? Don't tell me you think that Zhen and Lei are innocent and want to lie to them. Let me tell you, if you have this idea, you're wrong. Desolate Ning said coldly. Brother Shao, you've misunderstood. I'm friends with Miss Lei and Zhen. I've been injured, so I want to use the Shao family to heal my injuries. I happen to know some ways to detoxify the poison. I heard that the old man of the Shao family was poisoned by the 7-colored snake, so I wanted to see if I could help him detoxify it. Lu Ming cupped his fists and explained with a smile. Shut up, who do you think you are? Are you worthy of being my brother? Don't think that I don't know that you're intentionally trying to get close to those two girls because of their looks and innocence. There's no way you're getting close to them. You'd better leave the Shao family quickly, otherwise. Desolate Ning sneered. Desolate Ning, what are you doing? A delicate voice was heard, and then 2 beautiful figures appeared. It was Luo and Lei. Shao Ning, Big Brother Lu is our friend. If you let him go again, I might turn against you. The 2 sisters walked over, and Qing gritted her teeth. Humph. Seeing Luo and her sister coming over, Shao Ning knew that he had missed the opportunity. He snorted coldly, waved his sleeves and strode away. I heard someone say that Shao Ning was coming this way, so I knew that something bad was going to happen. Fortunately, we arrived in time. Brother Lu, are you all right? Qing said with some concern. I'm fine. Lu Ming smiled faintly. And I will have people keep an eye on Desolate Ning for the next few days. If he comes again, I'll definitely turn against him. So you should rest well. Having said that, the 2 sisters bade Lu Ming farewell. After Lu Ming returned to his room, he continued to cultivate and heal his injuries. After that, no one bothered Lu Ming anymore. 3 days later, Lu Ming's injuries had fully recovered. As for Dandan, he had thrown her into the mountain and river diagram to let her recover on her own. This fellow's vitality was extremely tenacious, and nothing would happen to him. After Lu Ming recovered, he found Ven and Lei and went to their grandfather's room together. The Shao family's old man lived in the Shao family's main residence. With that, Shao Hongyun waved his sleeves and strode away. Desolate Ning smiled complacently and left as well. Chapter 994. 994 Chapter 994 Detoxification. The two sisters, Ah Luo and Ah Lei, had red eyes, tears welling up in them. Ah Zhen, Ah Lei, what's going on? Lu Ming asked. It's all because of that desolate Ning. He wanted to give us to Ling Yunкong for his own future. And wiped her tears and explained to Lu Ming. It turned out that Xiao Ning was also a disciple of the Floating Mountain Martial School. However, the Floating Mountain Martial School was a colossus with many geniuses and geniuses. Desolate Ning's talent was average. He was just an ordinary disciple in the Floating Mountain sect and was not valued at all. However, he knew how to conduct himself and flatter others. He had used some unknown method to befriend Ling Yunкong, one of the 10 Heavens Pride experts of the Floating Mountain sect, and had even run errands for Ling Yunкong. Once, Xiao Ning brought Ling Yunкong to the Xiao family as a guest. The entire Xiao family was shocked and threw a huge banquet to welcome Ling Yunкong. At the banquet, Ling Yunкong had his eyes on the two sisters, Ah Lei and Ah Luo. For such a good thing, Xiao Ning would naturally help to introduce him. Ling Yunкong, the peerless Heavens Pride expert of the Floating Mountain Martial School. Even in the Battle of Providence in the Central Continent, he had achieved extraordinary results. Which young girl wouldn't like Heavens Pride experts and worship peerless geniuses? Ku and Lei naturally agreed to be acquainted with Ling Yunкong. However, he later found out that Ling Yunкong actually wanted to marry both of them. Yes, both of them. This made the two sisters Lei and Ku very disappointed in Ling Yunкong. Later on, they found out that Ling Yunкong was not a reliable person. He had already married 7 to 8 concubines. In this case, the two sisters would naturally not agree to it. However, Xiao Ning had finally managed to climb up to Ling Yunкong's high position. How could he miss out on such a rare opportunity? As long as Ling Yunкong married these two beautiful sisters, he would definitely reward him handsomely and value him even more in the future. Then, he, Desolate Ning, would be able to rise up the ranks in the Floating Mountain sect. Therefore, Xiao Ning and Xiao Hongyun had been trying their best to marry the two sisters to Ling Yunкong. However, the old man of the Xiao family, Xiao Zhan, was strongly against it. Thus, this matter had been dragged on. Now that Xiao Zhan was poisoned and unconscious, how could Xiao Ning and Xiao Hongyun miss this opportunity? Naturally, they began to urge the two sisters to marry Ling Yunкong. Lu Ming nodded and came to a sudden realization. No wonder the two sisters had such a bad relationship with Xiao Ning. So this was the reason. The three of them chatted and then returned to their rooms. Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning walked around a few courtyards and chatted with each other. Father, why did you agree to let that brat cure Grandpa's poison? If that brat really cured Grandpa's poison, with his bad temper, he would definitely object to us giving the two girls, Ah Zhen and Ah Lei, to Ling Yunкong. Desolate Ning said anxiously. Why are you so anxious? The 7-colored poisonous snake is extremely rare and its poison is very special. Now, the poison has spread to the old man's body, penetrating into his muscles, bones, and blood. We've invited so many alchemists and pharmacists, but none of them could do anything. How could that brat detoxify the poison? In my opinion, that brat has taken a fancy to a Zhen and a Zhen, and he just wants to show off in front of them. When he fails to detoxify the poison tomorrow, we'll find a reason to kick him out of the Xiao family. Xiao Hongyun said. Father is right. Desolate Ning revealed a happy smile. The day passed quickly, and the next day, the poison in old Master Xiao showed no signs of subsiding. The next afternoon, Lu Ming, the sisters, Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning, went to old Master Zhao's room together. Lu Ming opened the door and saw an old man lying on the bed. The old man looked to be in his 60s and had a burly figure, but his aura was weak now. His body was covered with multicolored spots. The 7 colors covered his entire body, making him look extremely strange. This was the poison of the poisonous rainbow snake. Grandpa, Seeing Xiao Zhan's appearance, the sisters felt a great pain in their hearts. Their eyes turned red and tears flowed down uncontrollably. The poisonous rainbow snake's poison has spread to every part of his body. It's even in his muscles, bones, and blood. Lu Ming's expression changed slightly. The old man was deeply poisoned. If not for his profound cultivation, he would have died long ago. Even so, he would not be able to hold on for long. Lu Ming predicted that the old man would die from the poison in a month at most. Big brother Lu, are you confident that you can save my grandfather? Qing said with a sobbing tone. I'll try my best. Lu Ming said and walked over. With a wave of his hand, Lu Ming's true energy spread out and supported Xiao Zhan's body. Xiao Zhan sat up on the bed, and Lu Ming sat cross-legged behind him. His palm was on Xiao Zhan's back, and the devouring power suddenly burst out. The devouring power wrapped around Xiao Zhan's body and seeped into every inch of his skin, bones, flesh, and blood. The sisters, A Luo and A Lei, as well as Xiao Hongyun and his son, were all staring at Lu Ming nervously. However, the four of them were nervous about different things. A Luo and A Lei were nervous because they were afraid that Lu Ming could not cure Xiao Zhan's poison. Xiao Hongyun and his son were nervous because they were afraid that Lu Ming had cured Xiao Zhan of his poison. The poison. The poisoner's starting to get rid of the poison. Suddenly, Anne's eyes lit up and she said in a trembling voice. First of all, the multicolored spots on Xiao Zhan's face began to fade, as if something was sucking them out of his body. How is that possible? Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning's expressions changed drastically, revealing a look of disbelief. Could it be that Lu Ming could really cure Xiao Zhan's poison? The eyes of the two of them flashed with all kinds of glints, and they were a little cold. The sisters, A Luo and A Lei, were overjoyed. They clasped their hands tightly together and looked at Lu Ming and Xiao Zhan with hope. As time passed, the colors on Xiao Zhan's face became more and more faint, and the aura on Xiao Zhan's body became stronger and stronger. Half an hour later, all the colors on Xiao Zhan's face had disappeared. The other colorful spots on his body also disappeared. Xiao Zhan's breathing became even, and he could even hear the thumping of his heart. Who? Lu Ming heaved a long sigh and stopped devouring. Xiao Zhan's poison was unexpectedly difficult to detoxify. It had penetrated into every inch of his flesh and blood. Even with the devouring power of the 9-dragon bloodline, it took him half an hour. But in the end, Xiao Zhan's poison had been completely devoured by the bloodline of the 9 dragons and refined into nothing. Big brother Lu, my grandfather's poison. Qing asked with some concern. Your grandfather's poison has been completely removed by me, and he'll wake up soon. However, Senior Xiao has been poisoned for so many days, and his body is very weak. I'm afraid it'll be difficult for him to recover to his peak in a short time. He'll need some time to recuperate. Lu Ming said with a smile. The poison is cured? That's great, the poison is cured, thank you, Big brother Lu. Qing smiled and was extremely excited. A Lei was the same, her eyes filled with joy. However, Xiao Hongyun and his son were the complete opposite. There was not a trace of a smile in their eyes, and their eyes were very gloomy. Lu Ming got up and got off the bed. At this moment, Xiao Zhan's body suddenly trembled and he spat out a mouthful of blood. He then slowly opened his eyes. Grandpa is awake, Grandpa is awake. Grandpa. A Luo was so excited that she almost jumped up and ran to the bed with A Lei. Chapter 995. 995 Ridiculous to the Extreme. Xiao Zhan's eyes swept over the two sisters and he smiled. A Luo, A Lei, is my poison cured? Who helped me? He knew very well that the poisonous rainbow snake's poison was difficult to detoxify. He thought that it was impossible for him to wake up, so he was quite surprised. It's Big brother Lu. Big brother Lu helped you. And looked at Lu Ming and said. Xiao Zhan also looked at Lu Ming. When he saw that Lu Ming was so young, he was also slightly stunned. He was so young. Could he be a powerful alchemist? Junior Lu Shaoqing greets Senior Xiao. Lu Ming cupped his fists slightly. There's no need to be so polite, young hero. You saved my life, so I should be bowing to you. Xiao Zhan struggled and wanted to bow to Lu Ming, but he was too weak to even lift his hand. Senior, you don't have to be so polite. I'm friends with Ah Luo and Ah Lei. It's my duty to help. Senior, your body is weak now. You should rest well. Lu Ming said hurriedly. At this moment, Xiao Hongyun's expression changed. Then, he suddenly revealed a surprised smile and stepped forward. Father, you're awake. That's great. I've been worried about you day and night, and I can't sleep at night. Xiao Zhan looked at Xiao Hongyun and nodded slightly. A dark look flashed in the depths of Xiao Hongyun's eyes, but he still had a smile on his face. Father, you've just been poisoned and your body is weak. You should rest well. We won't disturb you any longer. I'll order someone to send you some elixirs to replenish your essence and qi. Then, he looked at the sisters and said, Ah Zhen, Ah Lei, let's go out. Don't disturb Grandpa's rest. Grandpa, have a good rest. We'll be leaving first. Qing said with some reluctance. You can go now, young hero Lu. I'll thank you in person after I've recovered. Xiao Zhan said. Senior is too polite. Lu Ming cupped his fists and everyone left the room. Lu Shaoqing, right? I have something to tell you. Xiao Hongyun's face turned cold as soon as he left the room. Oh. Lu Ming nodded. The group left the main residence and went to a courtyard outside. Lu Shaoqing, since my father's poison has been cured and you've recovered, there's no need to stay in the Xiao family any longer. Please leave. Xiao Hongyun's first sentence was to ask him to leave. The sisters' eyes widened in disbelief. Second uncle, what do you mean by this? Big brother Lu has just cured Grandpa's poison and you're already chasing him away. He's the benefactor of our Xiao family, is this how you treat our benefactor? Then said in disbelief. What do you know at such a young age? Do you really think he's sincerely helping father detoxify? He must have a purpose for doing this. Xiao Hongyun chided him and then looked at Lu Ming. Lu Shaoqing, you're after the two girls, aren't you? The two girls of the Xiao family are indeed outstanding beauties. You approached them on purpose and even helped my father detoxify his poison. Your goal is nothing more than to gain the favor of these two girls. You're killing two birds with one stone. These two girls are not very experienced in the world. You can hide it from them, but how can you hide it from me? Let me tell you, these two girls are already Ling Yunkong's men from the floating mountain. You'd better give up on them. Otherwise, you won't even know how you'll die. So, leave the Xiao family now. Xiao Hongyun looked at Lu Ming coldly, his tone gradually becoming more serious. Lu Ming smiled. This matter was truly too laughable. He had come to the Xiao family because Ah Zhen and her sister had invited him. He was just looking for a place to heal his injuries and help Xiao Zhan detoxify. He had originally planned to leave after curing Xiao Zhan of his poison. But now, in Xiao Hongyun's eyes, he had actually become a person with ulterior motives. Chapter 996. 996. The Xiao sisters are in danger. Now, we can only strike first and gain the upper hand. Go and ask Ling Yunkong to send someone to bring Ah Lei and Ah Luo to the floating mountain. Let's see how the old man will object when the raw rice is cooked. Xiao Hongyun's eyes flickered with a scheming light. All right, father, I'll do it now. Xiao Ning nodded and left the room in a hurry. Lishui city was surrounded by swamps. Endless rivers, swamps, lakes, and land converged, and the entire territory was filled with water vapor. The next day, Lu Ming left Lishui City and headed north. After tens of thousands of miles, countless lakes came into view. This area was called the 10,000 Lake Plains. It was said that there were more than 10,000 lakes here. There were large and small endless lakes. The large ones had a radius of 10,000 miles, while the small ones were only a few miles. They covered this vast area. Lu Ming was here to comprehend the water concept. At a glance, many figures could be seen walking on the lake. Whoosh! Whoosh! From time to time, sword chi and water screens could be seen. Human warriors were killing the water demons in the lake. There were countless lakes in the 10,000 lake plain, so there were naturally many aquatic demonic beasts. Hiss! A huge catfish, more than 30 meters long, emerged from the lake. It opened its mouth wide and bit at Lu Ming, wanting to swallow him in one bite. His essential core exploded. Lu Ming took a step forward and stomped the catfish to death. Then, his devouring power burst forth and devoured the catfish's blood essence. As for the other demonic powers and blood, Lu Ming did not devour them because the scene would be too shocking and he was afraid that word would spread. Moreover, Lu Ming's cultivation level was difficult to improve due to his intent realm. Devouring the energy would not be of much use. Of course, there was another way for Lu Ming's water concept to improve quickly. That was to kill other martial artists and devour their concepts. There were many people who had comprehended the water mentality in the vicinity of Lishui City, and any one of them would be one. However, Lu Ming would not do that. If it was an enemy, Lu Ming would not show any mercy. However, he would not kill others to improve his intent realm just to improve his cultivation. Stepping on the surface of the lake, he felt the water vapor in the air. Lu Ming's mind sank into it and he continued to comprehend the concept of water. Then, Lu Ming began to comprehend the concept of water in the boundless water. 7 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lu Ming's comprehension ability was terrifying. He was making great progress every day. 7 days later, Lu Ming was sitting cross-legged on a huge lake. The water in this lake was very strange. It moved without any wind, as if it had a spiritual nature. The water vapor in this lake was the thickest, and the water concept comprehended was also particularly clear. Therefore, it attracted many people to come here to cultivate. Lu Ming also sat cross-legged on the lake, quietly comprehending and comprehending. Peak of level 3 beginning. Lu Ming's lips curled into a smile. His water concept had already reached the peak of the 3rd level. Look, those are the disciples of the Floating Mountain Martial School. At this moment, someone suddenly called out softly, attracting the attention of many people. They looked up at the sky. Lu Ming also looked up and saw some figures walking in the air, heading toward Lishui City. There were a total of 8 people. They were not old, most of them in their 30s. Desolate Ning. Lu Ming frowned. He saw Desolate Ning's figure in the crowd. These are the disciples of the Floating Mountain Martial School, and they are together with Desolate Ning. Could they be the people of Ling Yunkong? Lu Ming frowned. He thought of the sisters Ah Luo and Ah Lei. Let's go and take a look. Lu Ming got up and walked on the lake, following from a distance. Soon, they arrived at the Lishui City. Desolate Ning and the others stepped on the air and entered. When Lu Ming arrived at the Shao family's residence, he saw that the main entrance was already surrounded by people. I wonder why the people of the Floating Mountain sect have come. The leader is called Ling Kai. I've seen him before. He's Ling Yunkong's subordinate. What? Ling Yunkong. Ling Yunkong, one of the top 10 heavens favorites of the Floating Mountain Martial School. Exclamations came from the surroundings. That's right. I heard that Ling Yunkong has taken a fancy to the Shao sisters and wants to take them as his concubines. However, the Shao sisters have always been against it. I guess he's here to take them away. Directly taking him away, so overbearing? Nonsense, who is Ling Yunkong? So what if he was domineering? Who dares to resist? You're right. I heard that Ling Yunkong is a playboy. The Shao sisters are indeed beautiful. Ling Yunkong is like a sheep entering a tiger's mouth. Lu Ming had just arrived when he heard the discussions around him. Circulating his essential core, the people in front of Lu Ming were silently pushed away by him. Lu Ming walked forward. I'm not going, I won't go even if I die. Lu Ming had just walked to the front when he heard a delicate cry. Upon hearing it, he knew it was Ah Luo's voice. Lu Ming looked forward and saw a group of young men standing in front of the Shao family's main gate. Opposite them stood Shao Hongyun, the sisters Ah Luo and Ah Lei. At this moment, the two sisters of the Shao family were staring at the young man from the floating mountain martial school, Shao Hongyun, and Shao Ning with anger. Not going. It's your good fortune that Ling Yunkong has taken a fancy to you, and many girls are envious of you. How dare you not go? As long as he served young Master Ling well, he could have anything he wanted in the future. There are all kinds of cultivation resources available. Shao Hongyun chided with a dark face. Many people in the crowd shook their heads. Shao Hongyun's words might not be true. If he truly fell in love with a heaven's favorite of the floating mountain martial school and married him, then it would naturally be like what Shao Hongyun had said. However, Ling Yunkong was a dissolute person by nature. He liked the new and disliked the old. If she followed him, she might not have a good ending. I said I'm not going. If you want to go, you can go by yourself. Lei, let's go find Grandpa. And pulled up Lei and was about to run into the Shao family mansion. Evil creatures, what you're doing is placing the Shao family in danger. How can I allow you to do as you please? Stop right there. Shao Hongyun took a step forward and stood in front of the two sisters. A powerful aura rose from his body. With a wave of his hand, his true energy burst forth and formed a true energy cage, trapping the two sisters. Today, I have to go even if I don't want to. Young Master Kai, I'll leave these two girls to you. Shao Hongyun looked at Ling Kai in a flattering manner. Well, these two little girls haven't seen much of the world. They'll be well behaved after being trained by young Master Yunkong. Ling Kai chuckled and asked for 1,000. What are you guys doing? At this moment, a loud shout came from the Shao family. Then, a group of people followed an old man out. The old man was Shao Zhan. After 7 days, Shao Zhan had not fully recovered, but his aura was much stronger than 7 days ago. It was obvious that he had recovered a part of his cultivation. At this moment, Shao Zhan was like a wild lion, staring at Shao Hongyun with wide eyes. Grandpa! Ah Ku and Ah Lei shouted. Ah Ku, Ah Lei, don't be afraid. Grandpa is here. After saying that, Shao Zhan glared at Shao Hongyun and roared, You evil beast, they're your blood nieces, and you're in such a hurry to send them out. The next moment, everyone saw a head fly high into the air with blood spurting out. A Shao clan disciple was killed without being able to put up any resistance. The young man from the floating mountain sect who had attacked was a first-level spirit embryo realm cultivator. No! Shao Zhan roared like a wild lion, his eyes burning with anger. However, he was suppressed by Ling Kai's powerful aura and could not help at all. Once he made a move, Ah Luo and her sister would be taken away by Ling Kai. It seems like I'm not handing it over. Kill! Ling Kai's voice continued. A sword light flashed, and a blood-curdling screech was heard. Another Shao family disciple was killed. Shao Zhan's eyes were about to spit fire. Shao Hongyun and Shao Ning stood at the side, their eyes cold and indifferent. No, don't kill us. We'll go with you. The sisters' eyes were filled with tears. At this time, Ah Luo shouted. No, Grandpa can't send you into the tiger's mouth. Otherwise, how can I face your parents? Xiao Zhan roared, his eyes red. Old man, I think you really want to die. Kill, continue killing, until you kill all the people of the Xiao family. I don't believe that he will dare to not hand over today. Today, I will kill him until he hands over. Ling Kai shouted, full of killing intent. Whoosh! The sword light burst out again, but this time, there was no scream, because the hand holding the sword was grabbed. A black-robed young man suddenly appeared in front of the young man from the Floating Mountain Martial School and grabbed his wrist. Enough! The black-robed youth said coldly. Big Brother Lu. A Qing exclaimed. The black-robed young man was Lu Ming. Little Brother Lu, let's go. This has nothing to do with you. Seeing that it was Lu Ming, Xiao Zhan didn't look happy. Instead, he told Lu Ming to leave. Lu Ming looked like he was in his 20s, and the other party was a colossal being like the Floating Mountain sect. Ling Yunкang was one of the top 10 Heaven's Pride experts of the Floating Mountain sect. Lu Ming was no match for him. He was indebted to Lu Ming and he did not want to drag Lu Ming into this. As expected, Ling Kai's eyes darkened. The young man whose wrist was being held by Lu Ming had a murderous look in his eyes. He berated, Brat, you dare to sneak attack me? You're looking for death. His essential core burst forth and a black light flashed. The young man intended to push Lu Ming away and kill him with one strike. Ka-cha-cha. Lu Ming flicked his wrist and the young man's arm twisted and trembled like a piece of dough, emitting the sound of bones breaking. He let out a blood-curdling screech and flew far away, landing heavily on the ground. He was wailing like a wild dog that was about to die. The surroundings suddenly fell silent, and many people were shocked. The youth from the Floating Mountain sect was not weak. He had a cultivation of the first-level spirit embryo realm. Although he could not be considered a prodigy, he was considered one of the best among the first-level spirit embryo realm. Yet, he could not even block one move from Lu Ming. Who was Lu Ming? How could he be so strong? Ah Ku and Ah Lei's small mouths were slightly open, and they were a little stunned. They had originally thought that Lu Ming's abilities were about the same as theirs, at most a little stronger. They did not expect that an expert of the first-level spirit embryo realm would be easily defeated by Lu Ming. A trace of surprise flashed through Xiao Zhan's eyes, but he still looked serious. A first-level spirit embryo realm martial artist was nothing, but Ling Kai was at the peak of the second-level spirit embryo realm and was a heaven's favorite. He was not someone that the youth from before could compare to. Brat, you dare to launch a sneak attack and injure a disciple of my Floating Mountain Martial School. I think you've eaten the true dragon's bile. I'll give you a chance now. Kneel down, kowtow and admit your mistake. Then, destroy your own cultivation and I'll spare your life. Ling Kai said darkly. He had been in the Xiao family for more than 100 years and was now the Xiao family's butler. He had watched Ah Ku and Ah Lei grow up and had deep feelings for the Xiao family. Quan, it's very dangerous to follow us. You still have a family. Let's go. If there's a chance, we'll meet again. Xiao Zhan said. He was helpless, but this was the only thing he could do. If they stayed, they would all die when Ling Yunкang and his men arrived. Their only chance of survival was to leave. Chapter 1000. 1000 Snow Heart Poison. Thank you, Father. Xiao Hongyun was overjoyed. Then, he turned to Lu Ming. Young Master Lu, I'm sorry for offending you earlier. I'm here to apologize to you. Why don't you join us? Well, that's good. There's wine to drink, so there's no reason to refuse. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Then, the group of 6 came to the main hall. There was indeed a table of fine wine and delicacies. Xiao Hongyun poured a cup of wine for everyone, then raised his cup and said, Father, Ah Zhen, Ah Lei, and young Master Lu, I have made a huge mistake. I will drink this as punishment. Then, he picked up his wine cup and drank it all. Xiao Zhan, Ku and Lei also picked up their glasses and took a sip. Lu Ming raised his glass with a faint smile on his face. Young Master Lu, please. Seeing that Lu Ming did not drink, a trace of panic flashed in the depths of Xiao Hongyun's eyes. Then, he put on a sincere smile and said, It's good wine indeed. You'll know once you smell it. Lu Ming laughed, then picked up the glass and drank it in one go. Seeing this, Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning's eyes flashed with surprise. Young Master Lu is so generous. Come, let's eat. Xiao Hongyun laughed as everyone sat down. Xiao Ning then poured wine for everyone. Young Master Lu, you are so young and yet you have such a high cultivation. I really admire you. I have never heard of your name before. May I know which force you are from? Xiao Hongyun said. Hearing this, Xiao Zhan, Ah Luo and Ah Lei also showed a curious look. It had been half a year since the Battle of Providence had ended. During the Battle of Providence, all the hidden geniuses, the geniuses secretly nurtured by the unparalleled experts, had appeared one after another. By now, who didn't know the names of these geniuses? However, they were unfamiliar with Lu Shaoqing. Did he not participate in the Battle of Providence? I don't come from any force. I used to cultivate in the deep mountains. This is the first time I'm coming out of the mountains. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Everyone was stunned. Could it be that Lu Ming really did not participate in the Battle of Providence? This was really rare. Generally speaking, almost all geniuses who encountered a Battle of Providence would be tempted. Ha, young Master Lu, you have such a cultivation base even though you have not participated in the Battle of Providence. This is rare. Come, let me toast to you. Xiao Hongyun picked up his wine cup and downed it in one go. Lu Ming smiled and drank the wine in one gulp. Good wine, it's really good wine. You're so thoughtful. Lu Ming clicked his tongue and had a look of enjoyment on his face. Ha, it seems like young Master Lu is a wine lover. You can have a few more if you like. Xiao Hongyun said with a smile. Xiao Ning immediately poured a glass of wine for Lu Ming and said, Brother Lu, I hope you can forgive me for my previous offense. Good. Lu Ming smiled, picked up the glass, and drank it in one gulp. Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning's faces were filled with joy. After that, Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning repeatedly apologized to Xiao Zhan, Lei and Zhen, and toasted to the others. Soon, the Xiao sisters' faces turned red, and they looked exceptionally beautiful. Grandpa, Ah Luo, why do I feel a little cold? At this time, Ah Lei whispered. I also feel a little cold. A Qing shivered and exhaled. A layer of frost actually formed in the air. Xiao Zhan's expression changed. Ah Luo and Ah Lei were both at the perfected spirit sea realm. Why did they suddenly feel cold? Even in a world of ice and snow, they couldn't possibly feel cold. At this time, Xiao Zhan also felt a trace of coldness in his meridians. Bang! Xiao Zhan suddenly stood up from his chair and stared at Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning like a mad lion. He roared, Evil creatures, you poisoned the wine. Before he could finish his words, Xiao Zhan felt the world spin around him. He couldn't stand still and sat back down in his chair. Ah Ku and Ah Lei looked at Xiao Hongyun in disbelief. They had never thought that Xiao Hongyun would actually poison them. Didn't Xiao Hongyun already admit his mistake? Could it be that everything was fake? The two sisters found it unbelievable. It's so cold. Ah! Ah! Lei shouted. At this moment, her face was no longer red, but a layer of frost had appeared. Chapter 1001. 1001 Chapter 1001 Devouring All. Old man, how dare you disobey young Master Yunkong? You're courting death. And you still want to sneak away? Humph. Young Master Yunkong has taken a fancy to these two girls. Do you think they can escape? Ling Kai's cold eyes swept over Xiaozhan, Ah Luo, and Ah Lei. Xiaozhan, Ku and Lei's faces turned pale. They knew that this time, they could not escape. And you, kid, you actually dared to injure us. You simply don't know what's good for you. Hee, aren't you still in our hands? Ling Kai glared at Lu Ming ferociously and licked his lips. But don't worry. I won't kill you so easily. I'll make you suffer all the torture in the world and let you die in pain. AI. Lu Ming suddenly sighed. Humph, it's too late to sigh now. Ling Kaisan said coldly. I'm sighing. I was in the mood to drink, but it was interrupted by a few wild dogs. What a killjoy. Lu Ming sighed. Then, under everyone's shocked gaze, he picked up the wine pot on the table and said, however, the wine is indeed good wine. We can't waste it. With that, Lu Ming opened his mouth and took a deep breath. The wine in the flagon turned into a water column and flew into his mouth. Lu Ming gulped down all the water. Everyone was dumbfounded. You. Not poisoned? How is that possible? Xiao Hongyun cried out in disbelief, thinking that he was dreaming. He had clearly seen Lu Ming drink many glasses of wine. How could he not be poisoned? Moreover, Lu Ming had finished the rest of the wine. What was going on? Could it be that Lu Ming was not afraid of poison? Ling Kai and the others were also dumbfounded. They were the ones who had brought the snow heart poison. They had given Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning the antidote in advance and then poisoned the wine and dishes. Their main target was Lu Ming. In their eyes, Lu Ming was the most dangerous. Xiao Zhan and the others were not a threat to them. The process was surprisingly smooth. Xiao Hongyun and his son had successfully brought Xiao Zhan and the rest here. Lu Ming and the rest had also successfully drunk and eaten. Moreover, Lu Ming had drunk the most and eaten the most. But how could Lu Ming be fine now? Ling Kai knew better than anyone how powerful the snow heart poison was. Xiao Zhan, Ku and Lei were a little dazed. Then, their eyes revealed a glimmer of hope. Lu Ming was fine. Just now, they were already in despair, but now, hope was born again. I might as well tell you that the moment I picked up the wine cup, I knew that the wine was poisoned. Lu Ming looked at Xiao Hongyun contemptuously and smiled faintly. You. If you know, why are you still drinking? Xiao Hongyun was still in disbelief. Because it's good wine. How can I waste it? Besides, I also want to see what kind of tricks you are playing. Lu Ming smiled and stood up. Light swirled around his body and a cold aura emanated from him. Then, he stretched out his palm and pointed it at Xiao Zhan, Lei and Luo. A huge devouring force burst out and white light flew out from the three of them. As the white light flew through the air, a layer of crystal white frost appeared in the air. The white light continued to fly into Lu Ming's palm and was devoured by him. Xiao Zhan, Lei and Luo's faces also turned red. The poison in their bodies had been detoxified. Xiao Hongyun, Xiao Ning, Ling Kai, and the others all widened their eyes in shock. They had never heard of such a method of detoxification. Now, it's your turn. Since you're here, don't even think about leaving. Lu Ming's eyes swept across the room, and a sharp murderous intent burst out. Not good, retreat. Xiao Hongyun's heart skipped a beat. Without hesitation, he pulled Xiao Ning and quickly retreated. They were fast, but Lu Ming was faster. Lu Ming's figure moved and he appeared in front of Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning like a stream of light. He pointed 2 fingers and the 2 of them were unable to resist as their dantians were touched by Lu Ming's finger. Like balloons that had been burst, Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning screamed as their bodies were sent flying and fell to the ground. Their auras were weak, and they were like ordinary people. Their cultivation had been crippled by Lu Ming. Ah, my cultivation, my cultivation. Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning both screamed in despair. It's over, it's all over. Initially, he wanted to rely on Ling Yunkong to rise up the ranks. Now, he didn't manage to curry favor with Ling Yunkong and his cultivation was crippled. He had become a cripple. All hope was gone. Go, go. Ling Kai's pupils contracted sharply as he screamed repeatedly. He himself was about to retreat. Buzz! Lu Ming suddenly appeared in front of Ling Kai, grabbed his neck, and lifted him in the air. Release. Let me go, what do you want to do? I'm young Master Yunkong's man. Ling Kai shouted and tried to threaten Lu Ming. Swallow. Devour. Lu Ming spat coldly. The devouring power suddenly erupted. Ling Kai screamed and kept struggling, but to everyone's horror, Ling Kai's body shriveled up like a ball and finally turned into a dry corpse. Bloodthirsty, this is the bloodthirsty technique of Cold Blood Hall. You're from Cold Blood Hall, go, go. The other people from the Floating Mountain sect cried out in alarm and tried to escape. Did I let you go? All of you, stay. Lu Ming stretched out his palm and clenched it in the air. Boom! A terrifying devouring power burst out and enveloped all the people of the Floating Mountain sect. These people screamed in horror. Their power of blood, blood essence, blood, vital essence, and other things flew out of their bodies and were devoured by Lu Ming. This feeling was too terrifying. He had seen himself being devoured and the people around him turning into dried corpses. No, no. They screamed in agony. However, after a short while, everyone from the Floating Mountain sect turned into mummies and Lu Ming devoured everything. Almost all of these people cultivated the water concept. At this moment, Lu Ming's water concept began to improve as it was continuously refined by the 9-dragon bloodline. Only Xiao Hongyun, Xiao Ning, Xiao Zhan, and Lei were left. The people of the Floating Mountain sect had all died. A foul stench filled the hall. Lu Ming turned his head and saw Xiao Ning. He looked at Lu Ming in horror. He was so scared that he had peed himself. Xiao Hongyun's face was also pale and full of despair. Xiao Zhan and the other 2 also looked at Lu Ming in shock. Brother Lu, are you a Cold Blood Hall disciple? Xiao Zhan asked. Cold Blood Hall? I've never heard of it, I'm not a Cold Blood Hall disciple. Lu Ming shook his head. Not a Cold Blood Hall disciple. Xiao Zhan seemed to let out a long breath. He seemed to be very afraid of Cold Blood Hall. Senior Xiao, I'll leave these 2 to you. Lu Ming pointed at Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning. Xiao Zhan's eyes were filled with killing intent. Father, father, please spare my life. Please let me off this time. I was blinded by greed for a moment. I won't dare to do it again. Xiao Hongyun started pleading. You said the same thing before. You 2 evil creatures. If I let you live, you'll only harm others. I'd rather kill you myself. Xiao Zhan strode forward with killing intent. Chapter 1002. 1002 The Top 10 Heaven's Favorites of the Floating Mountain. Father, please let us off this time. I'm your biological son. Xiao Hongyun pleaded. Grandpa, I beg you, please let me go. It's not my fault. My father told me to do this. Yes, it's all him. I was forced by him. Xiao Ning screamed and begged, pushing all the blame onto Xiao Hongyun. Bastard, how dare you slander me? If it wasn't for the fact that you could get into Ling Yunkong's good books, would I have done that? Xiao Hongyun looked at Xiao Ning in disbelief and anger. You were the one who gave me this idea from the start. You were the one who told me to make use of Ah Lei and Ah Zhen. That's why I invited Ling Yunkong to our house. It was all your idea. Grandpa, if you want to kill him, then kill him. I'm innocent. I'm the last man in the Xiao family. I still want to pass on the Xiao family's heir. Desolate Ning shouted. Animal, animal, I'll kill you. Xiao Hongyun roared and pounced towards Xiao Ning. Don't think I'm afraid of you. Xiao Ning also rushed toward Xiao Hongyun. The two of them were entangled in a physical fight since their cultivation had been crippled. My family is unfortunate, my family is unfortunate. Xiao Zhan's face was dejected, as if he had suddenly aged a few decades. After a long time, Xiao Zhan's eyes revealed a decisive look. A sword appeared in his hand and he said, "What's the use of two scums in this world?" Whoosh! The sword light flashed, and two heads flew high up into the air with disbelief. After killing Xiao Hongyun and Xiao Ning, Xiao Zhan's body staggered as if he had lost all his strength. Grandpa! Ah Ke and Ah Lei quickly supported Xiao Zhan. Senior Xiao, you can't fall. The Xiao family, Ah Zhen and Ah Lei still need you to take care of them. Lu Ming said. Xiao Zhan took a deep breath to calm himself down and said, That's right. Ah Lei and Ah Zhen are the hope of the Xiao family. Nothing must happen to them. Let's leave Lishui City and get away from the floating mountain. I'll send you guys off first. Lu Ming said. Then, the four of them took advantage of the darkness and left the Xiao family. However, just as they left the Xiao family, a bright sword light slashed towards them. Lu Ming's expression changed. He used his vital essence to roll Xiao Zhan and the other two to the side. Boom! 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 The sword light slashed toward the Xiao family, leaving a deep sword mark. Half of the Xiao family was cut in half. A group of figures appeared in the sky. Their gazes were cold, and their bodies emitted a powerful aura. The people from the floating mountain. Xiao Zhan's expression changed. It seems like Ling Kai and the others are dead. Luckily, I was worried and rushed over personally. Otherwise, you guys would have really escaped. A cold voice came from the distance. A young man in a white robe was waving a folding fan as he walked in the air. Ling Yunkong. Xiao Zhan, Ke and A Lei cried out in alarm, their faces turning even uglier and even more desperate. Ling Yunkong, one of the top 10 Heaven's favorites of the Floating Mountain Martial School, had actually come personally. Buzz! Buzz! Whoosh! Around the Xiao family, many figures appeared in a flash and flew into the sky, looking over. The movement of the sword earlier was too loud. Everyone within 100 miles could hear it. They all rushed over to see what had happened. The people from the floating mountain. Ling Yunkong. That's Ling Yunkong. Ling Yunkong has come personally. The Xiao family is completely finished. Someone recognized Ling Yunkong and exclaimed in shock. Brother Lu, hurry up and leave. Xiao Zhan called out to Lu Ming anxiously. Lu Ming's combat strength was not bad, but he was definitely not Ling Yunkong's match. Ling Yunkong was one of the top 10 Heaven's Pride experts of the Floating Mountain Martial School. His combat strength was extremely terrifying. Many of the older generation were not his match. The top 10 Heaven's Pride experts of the Floating Mountain sect. The corners of Lu Ming's lips curled into a smile. There was a hint of fighting spirit and anticipation in his eyes. The Floating Mountain sect was the overlord of the central continent. It had an emperor in charge and was on the same level as the Emperor's Sky Divine Palace and the Sky Corps sect. Lu Ming was very curious about the level of the geniuses in such a force. Leave. Today, none of you will be able to escape. Ling Yunkong's voice was cold. His eyes swept across the room and finally landed on a cool end of Lei. His eyes were burning with passion. He had played with countless beautiful women in his life, but he had never played with such a pair of pure and lovely twins. Just thinking about them made him feel excited. Old man, you should kill yourself. And, that brat, kill himself too. That way, I can still leave you with an intact corpse. Ling Yunkong said indifferently. Hee, this is the virtue of one of the 10 heavens pride experts of the Floating Mountain Martial School. I've finally seen it today, but it's really disappointing. Lu Ming shook his head and sighed. In the air, the expressions of more than 10 experts of the Floating Mountain sect changed. Ling Yunkong's face darkened as well. He glared at Lu Ming coldly and said, Good, kid, you're good. With your words, I won't let you die. I'll let you live, but I'll make you regret living. Ling Kai said the same thing before, but he's a dead dog now. I hope you have the right to say that. Lu Ming replied indifferently. Attack and cripple him. Ling Yunkong's eyes were filled with killing intent as he waved his hand. Bang! An elder strode forward with a steel fork in his hand. His aura rose and a powerful pressure pressed down on Lu Ming. It was extremely shocking. 6th level Spirit Embryo Realm. This elder's cultivation had reached the 6th level of the Spirit Embryo Realm. Boom! The old man waved his steel fork and smashed it at Lu Ming. Be careful. Brother Lu, be careful. Xiao Zhan and the Xiao sisters cried out in unison, worried. Lu Ming's palm glowed and a long essential core spear was condensed. The long spear swept out and hit the steel fork. With a clang, the steel fork trembled violently and was sent flying. Lu Ming rose into the air, his long spear turning into a ray of light with a faint dragon's roar. It was a high-grade demigod martial technique, the dazzling dragon spear art. Puchi. The spear broke through the old man's defense and killed him. What? The people who were watching the battle from afar were shocked. Lu Ming was very powerful. He had killed a 6th level Spirit Embryo Realm cultivator with one shot. Such a young heaven's favorite would not be unknown in the entire central continent. Ling Yunkong's eyes flickered slightly as well. It was apparent that Lu Ming's cultivation had exceeded his expectations. Looks like I'll have to do it myself today. Ling Yunkong said. He was only slightly surprised, but he did not take Lu Ming seriously. That was because he could kill an ordinary 6th level Spirit Embryo Realm cultivator with a snap of his fingers. Bang! Ling Yunkong took a step forward. The sky trembled violently, and the world began to shake. Ling Yunkong is about to make his move. Some people exclaimed, but more people's eyes were shining. The Battle of Providence had just passed half a year ago. During this time, the entire central continent was very peaceful, as if all the geniuses had gone into seclusion. It was a complete opposite from before the Battle of Providence had begun. Before the Battle of Providence began, the prodigies would battle each other. Battles were endless, and there were battles between peerless prodigies every day. However, after the War of Providence, it became completely silent. All of the geniuses seemed to be digesting what they had obtained from the Battle of Providence and were in seclusion to improve their cultivation. In the past 6 months, it was rare to see some of the top geniuses fight. Was Ling Yunkong going to make a move now? After the Battle of Providence, countless people were curious about what realm Ling Yunkong had reached. Chapter 1003. 1003 Chapter 1003 Suppressing Ling Yunkong. This was because most people would not be able to see the final battle of the Battle of Providence. Only the upper echelons of the Overlord forces could see it. The combat strength of these heaven's favorites were all spread out. Few people had seen it with their own eyes. Now, they finally had a chance. Boom. 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 Lu Ming took one step at a time in the air. With each step, Ling Yunkong's aura grew stronger. In the end, the aura on his body was as powerful as the archaic divine mountains. The immense pressure pressed toward Lu Ming. Xiao Zhan and the Xiao sisters couldn't help but retreat, their eyes filled with horror. In front of Ling Yunkong, they felt as though they were nothing more than ants. It was impossible for them to resist him. Big brother Lu. The Xiao sisters looked at Lu Ming, extremely worried. Ling Yunkong was so powerful. Could Lu Ming be his match? However, Lu Ming's figure was as steady as a rock. He did not move at all, not even the corner of his clothes moved. Ling Yunkong's eyes revealed a trace of surprise. A person who could stand still in the face of his aura was not simple. You're not bad. You're worth my time. What's your name? Ling Yunkong's words surprised many people. Ling Yunkong actually said that Lu Ming was worth his time. Was the young man who was standing there without moving so strong worthy of Ling Yunkong's attention? You are not qualified to know my name. Lu Ming said indifferently. Lu Ming's voice was not loud, but it was like a storm that spread throughout the entire scene, causing everyone's eyes to widen. Lu Ming actually said that Ling Yunkong was not qualified to know his name. Crazy, too crazy, crazy to the point of no end. What kind of person was Ling Yunkong? He was one of the top 10 Heaven's Pride experts of the Overlord Force, the Floating Mountain sect. Although he was only ranked 10th, the number of disciples of the Floating Mountain sect was more than 10 million. There were countless geniuses and experts. To be able to stand out among the countless geniuses and be ranked 10th, it was enough to show how terrifying Ling Yun was. However, Lu Ming was saying that Ling Yunkong was not even qualified to know his name. He's too arrogant. I'm afraid that this young man came from the deep mountains and has not seen the world. He actually doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. In my opinion, he's just a frog at the bottom of the well. He thinks he has some ability and doesn't put the world's heroes in his eyes. Just watch, he'll be miserable later. I think I've heard his name before. It's from the Xiao family. I think he's called Lu Xiaoqing. Lu Xiaoqing? I've never heard of him before. The Battle of Providence has just ended, and all the powerful elites are famous. I've never heard of this name before. Did he not participate in the Battle of Providence? You see, I was right. This person must be a country bumpkin who just came out of some deep mountain. There was a lot of discussion near the Xiao family. Xiao Zhan, Ku and Lei were also trembling with fear. Lu Ming's words had infuriated Ling Yunkong even more. Ha ha ha. As expected, Ling Yun laughed in his anxiety. His eyes were cold as he said, "Arrogant, you are really arrogant. I, Ling Yunkong, have been called arrogant by others, but you are even more arrogant than me. However, you need to have the right to be arrogant. Later on, I will make sure that you can't be arrogant at all. You're right. You have to have the capital to be arrogant, or you're just looking for death." Lu Ming smiled faintly. It was obvious that Lu Ming was referring to Ling Yunkong. Then I'll let you see what I have. Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, Ling Yun took a step forward and waved his palm. A blue, crystal-clear blade light slashed towards Lu Ming. The terrifying aura seemed to be able to split the entire heaven and earth. Lu Ming smiled faintly. He shook his long spear and a dragon's roar was heard. A spear's gleam burst out and collided with the saber's gleam. Boom! A powerful chi burst out and the space shook. The spear and blade light both disappeared. Ling Yunkong did not move. Lu Ming did not move either. He blocked it. That Lu Xiaoqing actually blocked Ling Yunkong's blade. Unbelievable. How could this be? This person actually has such powerful combat strength? Some people called out in disbelief. Peak of the 7th level spirit embryo realm. Lu Ming's gaze flickered. He already knew that Ling Yunkong's cultivation had reached the peak of the 7th level spirit embryo realm. Half a year ago, during the War of Providence in the Eastern Barren Territory, there would have been cultivators at the level of demonic lord Luo Tian. However, Lu Ming felt that Ling Yunkong's combat strength should not be as strong as Luo Tian's. His talent should be slightly weaker than Luo Tian's. It had been half a year since the Battle of Providence, and Ling Yunkong had only reached the peak of the 7th level of the spirit embryo realm. Just from this point, he was inferior to Luo Tian. After all, Luo Tian was ranked 10th among all the human talents in the Eastern Barren Territory. Not bad. If you can take one of my attacks, then try taking another. 100 Waves Saber Art. The aura on Ling Yunkong's body became even more vigorous. The blade light broke through the air, and the sound of stormy waves actually rang out in the air. Ling Yunkong's blade gleams were like ocean waves, wave after wave, slashing towards Lu Ming. Buzz! Lu Ming's spear trembled. The long spear that was condensed from vital essence expanded rapidly, like a pillar that held up the sky. 5 colored rays of light curled around it. Yes, 5 colors, 5 intents. Earlier on, Lu Ming had devoured Ling Kai and the others' water concept and had been refining it. At this moment, Lu Ming's water concept had a breakthrough and reached the lower tier of level 3. Although it wasn't on the same level as the earth mentality, wind, fire, and thunder mentality, the power of the 5 mentalities together was still very shocking. Boom! The massive spear pressed down with an overbearing momentum, obliterating everything in its path. Boom! 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 The heavens and the earth trembled continuously as Ling Yunkong's blade light was crushed and shattered. In the end, the long spear did not stop and continued to smash towards Ling Yunkong. Why would I? Ling Yunkong's pupils contracted rapidly. His eyes were filled with disbelief. How could Lu Ming be so powerful? He broke his 100 Waves Saber Art in one move and still had the remaining energy to smash at him. All the spectators in the surroundings also widened their eyes in disbelief. Lu Ming's spear was too amazing. It was unimaginably powerful. It actually started to suppress Ling Yunkong, one of the 10 proud children of heaven of the Floating Mountain sect. Ling Yunkong let out a long howl. His long hair fluttered in the wind as he continuously slashed out with the saber in his hand. Within a short period of time, he had slashed at least a few thousand times before he managed to block Lu Ming's long spear. However, he was forced to retreat 1,000 meters, his chest heaving up and down. Just this bit of strength? And here I was thinking how strong he would be. It's a miracle that you're still alive. Lu Ming said indifferently. Ling Yunkong's face turned red with anger. He was very arrogant just now and even said that one had to have the right to be arrogant. The facts had proven that he did not have the right to be arrogant in front of Lu Ming. His words were like slapping his own face. This made him furious and furious. He wished he could kill Lu Ming. Die! Ling Yunkong roared. At the same time, a giant elephant appeared above his head. There were 5 golden chakras around the giant elephant. As expected, a 5th-level divine bloodline was weaker than Luo Tian's. However, it made sense after some thought. The Floating Mountain sect was only on the same level as the Empyrean God Palace or the Heavenly Corpse sect. Ling Yunkong was only ranked 10th in the Floating Mountain sect. If even the 10th place was as powerful as Luo Tian, wouldn't the Floating Mountain sect be as powerful as the entire human race of the East Baron? This was clearly impossible. At that time, they had thought that Lu Ming had been implicated and injured by some other smaller vicious beasts because of the level 8 demonic beast's rage. Now that they thought about it, perhaps the level 8 demonic beast's rage was because of Lu Ming. The reason why Lu Ming was injured was probably because he was attacked by that level 8 demonic beast and not some small demonic beast. Xiao Zhan was even more surprised. He had been cultivating for many years, and he knew very well how strong Ling Yunkong was. At his peak, he was at the peak of the 5th level of Spirit Embryo Realm. However, in front of Ling Yunkong, he was definitely killed in a second. But Ling Yunkong was easily defeated by Lu Ming. "Let's go, we'll leave first." Lu Ming waved his hand and the long spear disappeared. He smiled at Ah Luo and the rest. "Ah, yes, okay." As if they had just woken up from a dream, the 4 of them headed out of the city. Naturally, Lu Ming did not care about defeating Ling Yunkong. To him, Ling Yunkong was not his match at all. Ling Yunkong's cultivation was weaker than his. He had not even used the power of his bloodline. He had defeated Ling Yunkong with just his cultivation and intent realm. The power of the fusion of 5 kinds of mentality is indeed much stronger than that of 4 kinds of mentality. It's a pity that the water mentality is still a little weak. If it was on the same level as the other mentalities, the power that it could unleash would be even more terrifying. Lu Ming pondered in his heart. The 4 of them headed north of Lishui City. After leaving the city, the 4 of them changed their appearances and changed their clothes. The sisters' looks had become much more ordinary and less eye-catching. Lu Ming had also turned into a young man in his 30s. He kept going north and crossed the Myriad Lake Plain. After flying for about 1,000,000 miles, he stopped at a small island in the middle of a lake. This small island in the middle of the lake was very peaceful and suitable for living in seclusion. Xiao Zhan, a Kuana, Lei planned to live here temporarily. There was plenty of water vapor here. Lu Ming also planned to cultivate here for a period of time. The 4 of them then settled down. Every day, Lu Ming would sit cross-legged on the surface of the lake to comprehend the concept of water. To him, he couldn't afford to waste any time. The talisman amulet Sex Yin and Yang formation could only last for 5 years. However, almost half a year had passed. Lu Ming felt that time was too tight. He had to seize every bit of time to cultivate and improve himself as soon as possible. As for Xiao Zhan, he would disguise himself and go out every day to gather information. In the blink of an eye, 10 days had passed. Lu Ming cultivated quietly every day and made great progress in the water concept. One day, Xiao Zhan returned with a worried look on his face. Seeing this, Ku and Ah Lei quickly asked Xiao Zhan what had happened. At first, Xiao Zhan didn't say anything, but he had no choice but to tell the truth. It turned out that he had heard an important piece of news when he went out just now. Ling Yunkong had returned. He seemed to have invited the experts of the Floating Mountain Martial School to come here. He had captured many disciples of the Xiao family who had left. At this moment, Ling Yunkong was holding the disciples of the Xiao family in custody. He had released the news that Lu Xiaoqing, Xiao Zhan, and the others should return. Otherwise, he would kill all the disciples of the Xiao family. Despicable. This Ling Yunkong is actually so despicable. Qing gritted her teeth. No matter what, Ling Yunkong was still one of the top 10 Heaven's Pride experts of the Floating Mountain Martial School. They did not expect him to be so despicable and shameless. After being defeated by Lu Ming, he actually used the Xiao family's disciples to threaten them. Xiao Zhan's face was full of worry, but Lu Ming's expression was very calm. "You guys stay here, I'll go take a look," Lu Ming said. "No, little brother Lu, you've helped us too much. I can't repay your kindness in this life. I can't let you take any more risks." Xiao Zhan firmly shook his head. "That's right, big brother Lu. That Ling Yunkong must have found someone stronger than him. If you go, won't you be in danger?" Qing also said. "It's fine. I'm just going to take a look. I won't show my face if I'm not confident." Lu Ming said with a smile. This. They hesitated after hearing Lu Ming's words. Don't worry, you guys wait here for my news. Lu Ming smiled and rose into the air. Chapter 1005. 1005 Another Heaven's Favorite. In front of the Shao family's mansion in Lishui City, at least 50 Shao family disciples were tied up and kneeling on the ground. Ling Yunкong sat on a chair with an extremely cold expression. Beside him, there were some experts of the Floating Mountain sect. Many people were watching around the Shao family. Ling Yunкong's methods are too despicable. He actually used such methods to force Xiao Zhan and Lu Shaoqing to come out. He is indeed despicable. However, not all of the Heaven's Pride experts of the Floating Mountain Martial School are like this. Some Heaven's Pride experts are very forthright. I heard that Chu Kuang, who is ranked second among the top 10 Heaven's Pride experts of the Floating Mountain Martial School, is very forthright. He even married and made friends. I wonder if that's true. This is true. Come to think of it, Ling Yunкong was defeated by Lu Shaoqing the last time, and he still dares to return. Isn't he afraid of being defeated by Lu Shaoqing again? That's because he brought an expert with him. Do you see that young man who is sitting cross-legged on Ling Yunкong's right? That's Hai Ziming. What? That's Hai Ziming, the fifth of the 10 Heaven's favorites of the Floating Mountain sect. Countless people were talking about it from all directions. However, they kept their voices very low for fear that Ling Yunкong would hear them. At the end of their conversation, most of their gazes fell on the young man on Ling Yunкong's right. The young man was wearing a blue robe and had an ordinary appearance. He was the kind of person who wouldn't be able to be found in a crowd. However, when everyone heard his name, no one dared to look down on him. Because he was Hai Ziming. It was said that Hai Ziming was the Heaven's favorite of the Floating Mountain sect who rose up the fastest. He was also the youngest and was not even 25 years old yet. In the Battle of Providence, he rose like a comet, shocking everyone. After the Battle of Providence, he was ranked 5th among the 10 Heaven's favorites of the Floating Mountain sect, much stronger than Ling Yunкong. He did not expect that Ling Yunкong would actually invite Hai Ziming over. It was obvious that he was here to deal with Lu Shaoqing. Continue to spread the news. If Lu Shaoqing and Xiao Zhan still don't show up, I will kill a Shao family disciple every 2 hours. At this moment, Ling Yunкong revealed a look of impatience as he coldly ordered an old man beside him. Yes. The old man hurriedly nodded. Enough. At this moment, Hai Ziming opened his eyes. His eyes flashed and he spat out 2 words. The old man's expression immediately changed, and he stood still. Ling Yunкong frowned. Ling Yunкong, I'm here with you to meet Lu Shaoqing. You're too despicable. Hai Ziming said indifferently. Ling Yunкong frowned and a look of displeasure flashed across his eyes. He forced a smile and said, Junior brother Hai, Lu Shaoqing and the old man of the Shao family are both in hiding. If we don't use this method, how can they appear? Forget about killing them. Also, when they arrive, let these people go. They are all people with low cultivation. If we kill them, it will be bad for the reputation of our floating mountain. Hai Ziming said. Alright, junior brother Hai, I know what to do. Ling Yunкong's voice turned cold. Hai Ziming frowned. If it were not for the fact that Ling Yunкong had helped him before he rose to power, he would never have followed Ling Yunкong here to do such a thing. Ling Yunкong, I've already helped you twice. This is the last time. After this, you and I don't owe each other anything. Hai Ziming said indifferently. Humph. Ling Yunкong snorted but did not say anything. After Hai Ziming finished speaking, he closed his eyes again. Lu Shaoqing is here. At this moment, someone exclaimed. What? Where is he? Over there. The gazes of the crowd turned to the sky in unison. Ling Yunkong's eyes lit up. Hai Ziming, who had his eyes closed, opened his eyes as well. Two bright spearlights shot out from his eyes. A black-robed young man with his hands behind his back was flying in the northern sky. It was Lu Ming. When Lu Ming arrived at Lishui City, he found out that Ling Yunkong did not bring any spiritual god realm powerhouse with him. Chapter 1006. 1006 Forced to Swear. Lu Ming's body was like a ray of light when he used the 9 dragons' heaven-treading steps and released 2 bursts of dragon energy. It was too fast. In an instant, it had arrived in front of Ling Yunkong. Even though Ling Yunkong was prepared for this, he was still shocked. In a hurry, he made his move. However, his attack and defense were as fragile as tofu in front of Lu Ming's palm. Lu Ming's palm pierced through all defenses and grabbed Ling Yunkong's throat. With a burst of energy, Ling Yunkong's neck seemed to be about to break. He let out a blood-curdling screech and his essential core almost dissipated. The surrounding people were all stunned. It was unbelievable that Lu Ming could restrain Ling Yunkong with one move. After a long time, everyone finally reacted. How dare you? Let go of young Master Yunkong. You're looking for death, you know. A few old men shouted. They were all Ling Yunkong's trusted aides. Shut up. I'll break his neck right now. There was a murderous glint in Lu Ming's eyes. Killing intent burst forth. The few elders immediately shut up. Lu Shaoqing, I'm the Heaven's Pride expert of the Floating Mountain Martial School. If you kill me, the experts of the Floating Mountain Martial School will not let you off. Ling Yunkong roared. You have lost so miserably in a fight between peers. Do you really think that those higher-ups of the Floating Mountain Martial School will stand up for you? Are you not afraid of being ridiculed by the world? Lu Ming sneered, his eyes cold. Ling Yunkong shivered as a trace of fear appeared in his eyes. That was indeed the case. In a fight between peers, if one was killed because he was no match for the other, the elders of the sect would take revenge. Did the other party not have any elders? By then, the other party's elders would also kill the Heaven's Pride experts of their own younger generation. Then, how would the young Heaven's Pride experts in the world have the chance to rise again? Wouldn't they all be dead? Whether it was the East Continent, the Central Continent, or other places, this was an unwritten rule. When the younger generation fought, under normal circumstances, the older generation would not interfere. Of course, special circumstances were an exception. If I wanted to kill you, it would be a piece of cake. Do you understand the difference between you and me now? Lu Ming sneered and continued, however, even if I don't kill you today, I can agree to fight him. However, my condition is still the same as before. Swear it, a blood oath. If you lose, you can't touch the Shao family in any way. On the other hand, I will fulfill my condition. Lu Ming pointed at Hai Ziming. Today, Lu Ming had to completely solver the Shao family's future trouble. Otherwise, there would be no end to this. On one hand, he wanted to force Ling Yunkong to make a blood oath. On the other hand, he wanted to display his powerful abilities to intimidate them. I promise you, if I lose, I won't touch the Shao family at all, and I won't let anyone touch them. Hai Ziming was the first to speak. In the end, Ling Yunkong had no choice. His life was in Lu Ming's hands. He could only agree and take a blood oath. Once a martial artist made a blood oath, he could not go against it. Otherwise, in the future, he would be plagued by inner demons. Not only would it be difficult to advance his cultivation, but he might even suffer from qi deviation. After Ling Yunkong had made the blood oath, Lu Ming flung him away. Damn it, I hope Hai Ziming can kill this Lu Shaoqing. Ling Yunkong's eyes flickered with cold killing intent. Lu Ming actually dared to treat him in this way. This made his killing intent extremely strong. Moreover, he had lost all his face today. His only hope now was that Hai Ziming could defeat Lu Ming. He was still quite confident in Hai Ziming. He felt that the reason why he was caught by Lu Ming was because Lu Ming had caught him off guard. If he had been on guard, Lu Ming would not have been able to take him down so easily. He was not the only one who thought so. In fact, many people thought so too. It was because Lu Ming had indeed succeeded in his sneak attack. Moreover, Ling Yunkong was very clear about Hai Ziming's combat strength. Among all the heaven's favorites of the Floating Mountain sect, Hai Ziming was the one who caught up from behind. He rose quickly and his improvement speed was shocking. In the Battle of Providence, Hai Ziming was ranked 5th among the top 10 geniuses of the Floating Mountain sect. However, half a year had passed, and Ling Yunkong was clear that even the 4th-ranked genius of the Floating Mountain sect might not be a match for Hai Ziming. Therefore, he had confidence in Hai Ziming. Bang! Hai Ziming stepped forward and stood opposite Lu Ming. A powerful aura erupted from him without any restraint. His eyes were filled with a strong desire to fight and excitement. The peak of the 8th-level spirit embryo realm. Hai Ziming did not hide it at all. Lu Ming could tell at a glance that Hai Ziming's cultivation had already reached the peak of the 8th-level spirit embryo realm. Lu Shaoqing, allow me to experience it. Hai Ziming's palm glowed, and an ocean blue spear appeared in his hand. Hai Ziming also used a gun. His long spear seemed to be made of blue gemstones, and water vapor emanated from it from time to time. Under the sunlight, it emitted a colorful radiance. Lu Ming's fingers moved slightly and the infinite dragon spear appeared. Good spear. Hai Ziming's eyes lit up. Yours is not bad either. Lu Ming said. Then let's fight. As soon as he finished speaking, Hai Ziming took another step forward and waved his long spear. In the air, shadows of spears appeared all over the sky, heading straight for Lu Ming. Radiance filled the air and there were countless spear shadows. It seemed to have covered all of Lu Ming's paths. Buzz! Lu Ming's long spear trembled and similarly, he thrust out a sky full of spear shadows, which constantly collided with Hai Ziming's spear shadows. Clang! 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 The dense sounds of collision were like raindrops falling to the ground, endless. The spear shadows that filled the sky completely drowned Lu Ming and Hai Ziming. Outsiders could only see the spear shadows but not the person. It rang for at least a few thousand times before the sound stopped. The spear shadows that filled the sky disappeared and 2 figures appeared. Vast wave spear art. The long spear in Hai Ziming's hands spun and waved. It was as if there were several large rivers spinning around the long spear. It carried a terrifying power and charged towards Lu Ming. Spear concept, there's another concept that's also extremely terrifying. Lu Ming's heart stirred. Hai Zi's talent was shocking. She had actually comprehended 2 powerful intents and had already fused them into one. Her combat strength was extremely strong. The infinite dragon spear glowed with a 5-colored radiance. At the same time, it activated the Strangle Hell Heaven art. Every spear strike contained a terrifying power that could suppress everything. Boom! The 2 long spears collided with each other. In the end, the river collapsed and Hai Ziming's long spear was sent flying. Hai Ziming's body retreated quickly, and he only stopped after retreating 100 meters. His expression was serious. On the other hand, Ling Yunkong's expression was extremely ugly. Lu Ming was actually so powerful. The combat strength that he was displaying now had already surpassed his combat strength when he had fought with him previously. It was obvious that Lu Ming had been hiding his strength. Amazing! Take my strongest move. Hai Zi's eyes lit up as a long spear appeared above her head. The spear was also surrounded by a large river and 6 golden chakras floated above it. A divine level rank 6 bloodline. Hai Ziming used his bloodline fusion and transformed into a spear. The boundless sea. Hai Ziming's voice came from the long spear. The long spear vibrated and spun in the air as it stabbed out. Whoosh! Lu Ming seemed to have seen an ocean. The waves were shocking, and with a power that could destroy everything, it surged toward Lu Ming. Ocean concept. Lu Ming finally knew what Hai Ziming's other concept was. It was the ocean concept, a terrifying concept. Chapter 1007. 1007 The Blackwater Lotus Throne. The spear intent and the ocean intent merged together. The spear force was like the ocean, with raging waves hitting the shore and the ocean being boundless, destroying everything. Strong, he's too strong. Retreat, retreat. The hearts of the spectators sped up in fear as they watched this move. It was as if they were about to be crushed by the ocean in the next moment. Countless people cried out in alarm and retreated in panic. Ku, Lei, and the others stood on the ground. They had the same feeling. They felt like they were going to be turned into ashes the next moment. However, there was an imposing figure in front of them. He burst out with a shocking aura and blocked everything for them. Roar! A faint dragon's roar came from his body. Two streams of dragon energy burst forth, causing Lu Ming's body to glow with purple light again. Boom! This time, Lu Ming put away the infinite dragon spear. He stepped forward and struck out with his palm. This palm was very ordinary, but it seemed to have the power to suppress the heavens and split everything. With a loud boom, everyone was shocked to see that the sea seemed to have been split in half by Lu Ming's palm. Endless sea water swept in and then collapsed. Bang! In the middle of the ocean, a blue spear also collapsed. In the next moment, the ocean disappeared, and so did the spear. The sky above Lishui City returned to its usual tranquility, and only a figure could be seen retreating rapidly, leaving a trail of blood in the air. Countless people looked at this scene in shock. This was because the person who had retreated was Hai Ziming. Hai Ziming was defeated and retreated while vomiting blood. Oh my god, even Hai Ziming was defeated. Lu Shaoqing's combat power is too shocking. In the entire central continent, Hai Ziming was about to be ranked as a third-class heaven's favorite, but he still lost. Could Lu Shaoqing be a third-class heaven's favorite? That's possible. Lu Shaoqing is a third-class heaven's favorite. That's terrifying. The surroundings were in an uproar. Countless people looked at Lu Ming in shock. Impossible, how is that possible? Ling Yunkong roared. His eyes were wide open in disbelief. Lu Ming had actually defeated Hai Ziming. How could he be so strong? One had to know that there were not many people in the vast central continent who could defeat Hai Ziming. After all, in the vast central continent, there were only 18 overlord forces. Even if some of the weaker forces also had peerless heaven's favorites, how many could there be? Ling Yunkong was furious, but the Shao family was ecstatic. They were saved. Ling Yunkong swore a blood oath that if Hai Ziming was defeated, he would not touch the Shao family in any way. I've lost. Hai Ziming stood in the air, his eyes full of surprise. Thanks for letting me win. Lu Ming cupped his hands. Lu Ming estimated that Hai Ziming's talent was not inferior to that of Wang Fenchen, Dong Fangyu, and the others from the Eastern Barren Territory. Lu Shaoqing, it's a pity that you didn't participate in the Battle of Providence with your talent and combat strength. However, the Battle of Providence is only one of the stops for us to rise. Even if you didn't participate, I believe that you can rise with your talent. Hai Ziming cupped his fists and revealed a look of admiration. He was very free and honest, completely different from Ling Yunkong. You're welcome. Lu Ming smiled faintly. He nodded in his heart. This was normal. It was impossible for everyone to be like Ling Yunkong. Otherwise, the floating mountain sect would really not be far from destruction. The battle is over. Ling Yunkong, from now on, we don't owe each other anything. Hai Ziming said as he looked at Ling Yunkong. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. It seemed that Hai Ziming owed Ling Yunkong a favor and that was why he helped him. With that, Hai Ziming's figure moved, turning into a rainbow light and disappearing into the sky. What's wrong? You're still not leaving? Lu Ming looked at Ling Yunkong. Humph. Ling Yunkong flicked his sleeve. He wanted to make things difficult for them, but he had already taken a blood oath, so he could only grit his teeth and leave. In fact, he couldn't even order others to deal with the Shao family in the future. In an instant, not a single person from the floating mountain martial school remained. Lu Ming came to the Shao family and waved his hand. Essential core surged out and the essential core that sealed their cultivation was broken by Lu Ming. They regained their freedom. Thank you, young Master Lu. Thank you, young Master Lu, for saving my life. The Shao family members thanked Lu Ming profusely. This time, without Lu Ming, they would most likely be dead. Everyone, you don't have to be so polite. From now on, Ling Yunkong won't make things difficult for the Shao family. You can recall the other members of the Shao family. I will go and fetch Senior Shao and the others. Lu Ming said. Everyone from the Shao family nodded and moved in batches. Lu Ming stepped into the air and headed towards the small island. With Lu Ming's departure, the crowd dispersed as well. However, Lu Shaoqing's name had spread throughout the entire Lishui city at an alarming rate. It was believed that it would not be long before it spread throughout the territory controlled by the floating mountain sect. Many people were curious as to who Lu Shaoqing was, to suddenly appear after the Battle of Providence. When Xiao Zhan, Lei, and Luo heard the specific news, they were overjoyed and grateful to Lu Ming. Lu Ming had completely resolved this matter. They did not need to run away in the future. Everyone returned to the Shao family. Xiao Zhan made arrangements for the Shao family to begin rebuilding the Shao mansion. Because the Shao family was previously affected by the war, many of their buildings were destroyed. As for Lu Ming, he continued to cultivate. Time flew by, and another 10 days had passed. His water concept was slowly approaching level 3 upper tier. He was getting closer and closer to the other concepts. On this day, a piece of news quickly spread throughout the entire Lishui city. To the west of the city, there was a black lake. In the middle of the black lake, there was a pristine water lotus that was about to mature. It's actually the cleansing water lotus throne. Let's go, we can't miss this. Let's go. As soon as the news spread, countless people were tempted and headed to the west of the city. However, there were also many people who were more sensible and did not go. The pure water lotus platform is so precious. It's very useful for the cultivation of the water mentality or the cultivation techniques of the water nature. It can even help one break through the bottleneck. It will definitely attract a lot of experts. Even many old monsters who have been living in seclusion for many years will appear. That's right. Although the pristine water lotus platform is not of much use to a 4th level will, it is of great help to a 3rd level will. Especially when a 3rd level will breaks through to the 4th level, it will be extremely useful. By that time, there will be many experts. If we go, we will only be courting death. These people sneered and did not move. They just waited for news in Lishui city. Pure water lotus throne. Lu Ming's eyes glowed when he heard the news. He had to get the cleansing water lotus throne. As long as he got the pure water lotus throne, his water mentality would have a huge improvement in a short time. It might even surpass the other 4 mentalities and catch up. In this case, his cultivation base could start to improve again. It had been more than half a year, but his cultivation had not improved. Now, the other geniuses who had participated in the Battle of Providence were all cultivating in seclusion, digesting what they had gained. Their cultivation would definitely improve at a rapid pace. Lu Ming speculated that the cultivation of Di Shen, Shuejiani, AO2, and the others must have far surpassed his. Lu Ming had to quickly improve his water concept so that he could continue to improve his cultivation. Chapter 1008. 1008 The Fight for the Blackwater Mystical Snake. Lu Ming bade farewell to Xiao Zhan, Ah Luo, Ah Lei, and the others. He had stayed in the Xiao family and Lishui city for long enough. It was time for him to leave. Big brother Lu, will you come to see us again in the future? Qing looked at Lu Ming, reluctant to leave. Ah Lei didn't say anything, but her eyes were the same, reluctant to leave. I will. When I have time, I will come and visit you. You must cultivate well. If anything happens, just pass a message to me. Lu Ming smiled and nodded at Xiao Zhan. Then, he rose into the air and left, flying in the direction of the Blackwater Lake. The Blackwater Lake was located a few million miles west of the city. The Blackwater Lake was not big. It was only about 100 miles in radius. When Lu Ming arrived, the Blackwater Lake was already surrounded by people. These people were not only from Lishui city but from all over the world. There were men and women, young and old. Many of them had powerful auras and profound cultivation. That's Lu Shaoqing. Lu Ming's arrival caused a commotion. Some people recognized him. Many people looked at him with solemnness and wariness. Lu Ming's combat strength was extremely terrifying. Even Hai Ziming was not his match. It could be said that there were few who could match him in the spirit embryo realm. This was a strong competitor. Lu Ming ignored everyone's gazes and looked at the Blackwater Lake. As its name suggested, the black water of the Blackwater Lake was black in color. It was said that the water was highly toxic, and even a spirit embryo realm expert would be in grave danger if they were to come into contact with it. In the middle of the Blackwater Lake, there was a green lotus platform. At this moment, it was emitting a strong medicinal fragrance. This was the pure water lotus throne. However, it was obvious that the pure water lotus throne was not fully mature. The cleansing water lotus throne was a special spiritual medicine. If it was not fully mature, it would not be a spiritual medicine, but a poison. Only when it was fully mature would it be a spiritual medicine, which was of great help to the cultivation of water attribute techniques and the concept of water. So many experts have come. It seems like we have no chance. Look, that's Lu Shaoqing. He's the heaven's favorite who defeated Hai Ziming. His combat strength is extremely terrifying. There are also quite a few people at the peak of the Sea of Souls realm. An ordinary perfected spiritual ocean tier cultivator is nothing. There are a few experts at the level of old monsters. Around them, many people were discussing in low voices. Some people sighed, knowing that they had no hope. The so-called old monster level expert was a term used to address some extremely terrifying existences in the spirit embryo realm. Among those in the great circle of the spirit embryo realm, there were a few people who had awakened a divine bloodline but were stuck at the great circle of the spirit embryo realm and did not break through to the spiritual god realm. Those who had lived for a long time and were terrifying in all aspects were called old monsters. These people were different from ordinary great circle spirit embryos. When they were young, they were all god-tier heaven's favorites. However, it was extremely difficult to break through to the spirit god realm. Many prodigies with first or second rank divine bloodlines would be stuck at the limits of the spirit embryo realm and would not be able to break through for the rest of their lives. These people were the most terrifying ones among the spirit embryo realm. Their combat strength was extremely terrifying. There were a few of such people present today. Moreover, the number of people was still increasing. That's Yang Tsong, one of the 10 heavens favorites from the Floating Mountain sect. There's also Wukong, one of the top 10 heaven's favorites. Someone exclaimed as they looked at the sky. From the east and west, there was a young man each walking through the air. His aura was dignified and extraordinary. Lu Ming's heart stirred. During this period of time, he had gained some understanding of the top 10 heaven's favorites of the Floating Mountain sect. Yang Tsung was ranked 4th, while Wukong was ranked 6th. Both of them were extremely powerful Heaven's Pride experts. Unexpectedly, the pristine water lotus throne had attracted all the Heaven's favorites from the Floating Mountain sect. The eyes of many old monsters turned serious. Although the cultivation of Heaven's favorites like Yang Tsung and Wukong were not as high as them, their combat strength could not be judged by common sense. Everyone waited quietly, and more people arrived. Half a day later, the cleansing water lotus throne suddenly shone brightly. The strong medicinal fragrance could be smelled even from hundreds of miles away. The cleansing water lotus throne has matured. Countless people's eyes were burning with passion. Buzz! 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 In an instant, at least a few hundred people charged towards the black water lake. Get lost, the cleansing water lotus throne is mine. You're looking for death, it's mine. You're the one who's going to die. Roars of anger rang out, and all sorts of lights burst out. Screams of pain rang out continuously, and blood dyed the black water lake red. Walala! The energy surged and the water of the black water lake churned and splashed. Ah! Shrill screams were heard. Some people were splashed by the water of the black water lake. They actually made sizzling sounds and their bodies were quickly corroded. Not good. Be careful. This lake water is poisonous. Many people shouted in shock and circulated their true yuan to protect themselves. However, the lake water was extremely poisonous. When it touched one's Zhen yuan, even the Zhen yuan would be quickly corroded. Get down. Roars of anger could be heard continuously. Some people were struck into the lake and were submerged by the water. Their protective Zhen yuan was quickly corroded. In the end, they let out miserable screams and died without a corpse. Many people were shocked and began to retreat, not daring to charge forward. It was too dangerous. In just a short while, over 100 people had died, and they were all strong practitioners of the spirit embryo realm and above. Those martial artists below the spirit embryo realm didn't dare to charge forward at all. As long as they were splashed by a drop of the lake water, they would be dead. However, there were still many people who charged forward. They were all experts, and with a glance, one could see that they were all experts at the 6th level spirit embryo realm or above. Suddenly, the water in the lake churned, and a few huge creatures appeared from the black water lake. They were huge black snakes with thick scales and cold eyes. Each of them was more than 10 meters in diameter. The giant black snake rolled, and the lake water churned violently, stirring up thousands of waves. The waves swept toward many people, and suddenly, many people were swept into the lake, screaming in pain. Blackwater mystical snake. It's a blackwater mystical snake. Someone shouted in fear. Voila! The blackwater mystical snake was a top level 7 demonic beast. In the blackwater lake, it was like a fish in water, which was extremely terrifying. In the blackwater lake, a total of 6 blackwater Xian snakes appeared, protecting the cleansing water lotus in the middle. They swept their tails, bringing up huge waves. No one dared to take it head-on, and they all dodged. Evil creature, you're looking for death. A few white-haired old men shot out beams of divine light, dispersing the lake water and attacking the blackwater mystical snake. It's an expert at the level of an old monster. Someone shouted. The few elders were extremely powerful, far exceeding the average Great Circle spirit embryo. At the same time, everyone saw that Yang Tsung and Wukong were also extremely powerful. They rushed forward and fought against Black Snake and Xian Snake. There were also some Great Circle, 9th and 8th level spirit embryo experts who were charging forward with all their might. The battle on the Blackwater Lake was endless and chaotic. Lu Ming mixed in with the crowd and rushed forward. He had the devouring power, so he was not afraid of the poison in the lake. However, he did not rush forward. Instead, he mixed in with the crowd and used his devouring power. Many experts had been killed. This was a huge resource. Lu Ming would not waste it. He clenched his fist and a powerful devouring force erupted, enveloping those who had been killed. In an instant, the rolling blood essence, true vitality, and intent runes were all devoured by Lu Ming. The 9-dragon bloodline began to be refined continuously. Lu Ming's water concept began to improve rapidly. Chapter 1009. 1009 Killing the Old Monster. On the lake, the battle was extremely fierce. The dark water mystical snake couldn't resist the attacks of so many powerful warriors. Its huge body was covered with wounds. 2 of them were killed, and their huge bodies floated on the lake. The rest of the dark water mystical snake sank into the lake. The cleansing water lotus throne is mine. As the Blackwater mystical snake retreated, many people started to go crazy and rushed to the cleansing water lotus throne. You want to obtain the cleansing water lotus throne? You're courting death. A blue-haired elder bellowed and grabbed with his fingers, tearing apart several 8th and 9th level spirit embryo realm experts and killing them. Too powerful. This blue-haired elder's strength was far above that of an ordinary Great Circle spirit embryo. He was an expert on the level of an old monster. In other directions, there were also such experts who were rushing towards the cleansing water lotus throne. Among them, Yang Tsong and Wukong were also unrivaled, not any weaker than those old monsters. Buzz! At this moment, Lu Ming also began to move. His figure was like a stream of light, rushing towards the cleansing water lotus throne. His speed was extremely fast, leaving many people behind. Stay here. Suddenly, 2 terrifying attacks were directed at Lu Ming. Lu Ming's gaze swept across and realized that the ones who attacked him were 2 elders. These 2 elders had the cultivation of a perfected spirit embryo, but they were just ordinary perfected spirit embryos. You're looking for death. Die! Lu Ming shouted coldly. Devouring power burst out from his left palm and enveloped the 2 elders. He pointed out 2 fingers with his right palm and 2 spear lights appeared, pointing at the 2 elders. Not good, retreat. Being enveloped by the devouring power, the 2 old men felt that all the energy in their bodies was being devoured. They could not use their strength at all. At the same time, the 2 spear lights were extremely terrifying, giving them a fatal threat. The 2 of them bellowed in anger, their eyes flashing with extreme fear. They knew that they had encountered a terrifying heaven's favorite. However, it was too late to retreat now. The 2 spear lights arrived in front of the 2 of them in an instant. Spare me! The 2 of them screamed, but the next moment, the spear light pierced through their foreheads. The devouring power burst out and devoured the essence of the 2 elders. Lu Ming could kill ordinary perfected spirit embryos with a flip of his hand. Buzz! Lu Ming's figure moved and he rushed forward at an extremely fast speed. Very soon, he was at the forefront. Die! A cold roar was heard, and the terrifying claw radiance was aimed at Lu Ming. Lu Ming did not hesitate and struck with his palm. Bang! His palm struck a blue claw. His body only swayed slightly, but the other party was forced to retreat. Lu Ming took a look. It was the blue-haired elder, an expert at the level of an old monster. At this moment, the elder looked at Lu Ming with a grave expression. The old man had not expected a young man to be so powerful. Lu Ming glanced at him and did not continue to attack. Instead, he rushed towards the cleansing water lotus throne. There were already people approaching from other directions. The blue-haired elder's expression changed. He didn't continue to attack and rushed towards the cleansing water lotus throne. A blue divine eagle and a golden chakra appeared above his head. He performed the bloodline fusion and turned into a blue divine eagle, pouncing toward the cleansing water lotus throne. From all directions, a total of 7 figures approached the pristine water lotus throne. Yang Tsung, Wukong, Lu Ming, and 4 other elders. The 7 of them were the fastest and approached the cleansing water lotus throne. Get lost. You're the one who's getting lost. Die. The 7 of them exchanged glances, and a great battle suddenly erupted. Terrifying attacks poured towards each other, and a chaotic battle broke out. However, everyone intentionally avoided the pristine water lotus throne, and the chi did not land on it. Boom! Boom! The explosions continued, and all kinds of light flew around. Selah. A blue divine eagle pounced at Lu Ming with a terrifying gust of wind. It was that blue-haired old man again. Old man, you're looking for death. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. A 5-colored light burst forth as he activated the prison-suppressing heaven technique and struck out with his palm. Bang! The palm hit the blue godly hawk and shattered its talons. The blue-haired elder's figure reappeared. Blood spurted out of his mouth as he quickly retreated with fear in his eyes. Then, the terrifying devouring power enveloped him. Lu Ming took a step forward and appeared in front of the blue-haired elder, striking out with his palm. Wait, spare me. The blue-haired elder screamed in horror, but Lu Ming's palm did not stop and continued to strike. Kacha! The blue-haired elder's body had a huge hole in it, and blood was flowing out from it. However, he was not dead yet, and he wanted to run for his life. Now, he couldn't care less about the cleansing water lotus throne. All he wanted to do was to escape and escape. However, how could Lu Ming let him escape? Bang! He took a step forward, and the power of the 9 dragons stepping on air exploded. The blue-haired elder screamed in pain, and his 4 parts were intact. Subsequently, Lu Ming devoured all the essence of the blue-haired elder. The blue-haired elder had only awakened a 1st-level divine bloodline. How could he be a match for Lu Ming? Even though his cultivation level was 2 levels higher than Lu Ming's, he was still easily killed. Behind him, the other people who were chasing after him were shocked. Lu Ming was too terrifying. An old monster-level expert was killed just like that. They looked at Lu Ming with fear in their eyes. At this moment, the fight for the cleansing water lotus throne was still going on. Yang Tsung and Wukong joined forces to fight against the 3 old monsters. They were at a disadvantage. Buzz! Lu Ming stepped forward and approached the pristine water lotus. Lu Shaoqing. Yang Tsung's gaze swept toward Lu Ming with a hint of solemnity. Obviously, he already knew that Lu Ming had defeated Hai Ziming. Hai Ziming's abilities were not weaker than his. He was not confident that Lu Ming could defeat Hai Ziming. Lu Ming glanced at the crowd indifferently. He stepped forward and stretched out his palm to grab the cleansing water lotus throne. Don't even think about it. Wukong's eyes glinted coldly as he thrust the long spear in his hand at Lu Ming. Lu Ming struck with his palm. Wukong's body trembled and he retreated. Boom! Then, Lu Ming threw a punch and an old monster retreated while vomiting blood. CSI. Many people gasped. Lu Ming was too powerful. Wukong, an expert at the level of an old monster, was easily injured by Lu Ming. No one could stop him. You'd better not court death. Lu Ming's eyes swept across the group. The old monsters, Yang Tsung, and Wukong all had ugly expressions on their faces. Lu Shaoqing, you may be strong, but there are so many of us here. We don't have to be afraid of you. Wukong said. At this time, many experts had appeared in all directions. However, they were watching from afar and did not dare to get close. "You guys can try," Lu Ming said coldly. "Yang Tsung, Wukong, I suggest that we join hands and defeat this man. Then, we will seize the platform with our own abilities. Otherwise, we will not get anything if this man takes the platform," one of the old monsters said. "All right, I agree." Wukong nodded. Yang Tsung frowned. He did not want to offend a prodigy like Lu Ming unless it was absolutely necessary. "Yang Tsung, what about you?" Wukong looked at Yang Kong. A third-grade heaven's favorite. They are the most powerful people in the central continent. The floating mountain sect only has 3. Waves of discussions could be heard in the surroundings. No one dared to step forward. Even if the cleansing water lotus throne was right in front of them, they did not dare to step forward. In front of Lu Ming's combat strength, an ordinary perfected spirit embryo could be killed with a flip of his hand. Who would dare to step forward? Lu Ming swept a glance at the crowd and then stepped forward toward the cleansing water lotus throne. Wukong and the other old monsters did not move. Although they were unwilling, they knew that this time, the cleansing water lotus throne was Lu Ming's. No one could compete with him. Voila! At this moment, the water in the lake churned and a huge creature suddenly appeared. It swallowed the pristine water lotus throne in one gulp and then went into the water. It was a giant snake, the Blackwater mystical snake. No, that was not the black serpent. It was even bigger than the dark water mystical snake, and its aura was even more shocking. It was the king of the dark water mystical snakes, the dark water king snake. "You're looking for death." Lu Ming shouted coldly and took a few steps forward. The 9 dragons' heaven stomping steps burst out, and the terrifying power blasted into the Blackwater lake. Boom! 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 The entire Blackwater lake started to shake, and huge waves rose to the sky. "Ah, this is bad. Lu Shaoqing has gone mad. Go, go! Quickly retreat!" In the surroundings, the experts flew up into the sky in fear and then towards the shore. The water in the lake churned and huge waves rose to the sky. Under the bombardment of the terrifying power, the shadow of the Blackwater Kingsnake was faintly visible. Lu Ming waved his hand and hundreds of long spears were condensed in the air, shooting toward the lake. The King Black Snake let out an angry hiss and rushed out of the Blackwater Lake, flying towards the shore. "It's not the Blackwater Kingsnake, it's a human," he said. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. This Blackwater Kingsnake wasn't the real one. Someone with the Blackwater Kingsnake bloodline had used a bloodline fusion. This person was very scheming. His bloodline was the Blackwater King Snake, so he was not afraid of the poison in the Blackwater Lake. He had already dived to the bottom of the lake, waiting for the opportunity to seize the pristine water lotus throne. However, how could Lu Ming let this person get away so easily? He took a step forward and chased after the Blackwater Kingsnake like a stream of light. Just as the Blackwater Kingsnake was about to escape from the black water, a white blade light slashed at it. The blade light was extremely terrifying, emitting a bone-chilling cold. The Black Snake King Snake was shocked. Its huge snake body curled up and turned back into its human form. This was an old man whose hair was about to fall out. His eyes were sinister. He dodged the blade light and wanted to escape from the other side. However, at this moment, Lu Ming had already arrived. He threw a punch and the light from his fist enveloped the old man. His body trembled and was blocked. "Blackwater old monster!" Someone cried out in surprise, recognizing the old man. The bloodline that this old man had awakened was actually a 3rd-level divine level. However, For some unknown reason, he had not broken through to the spiritual god realm. However, his combat strength was extremely powerful and he was very famous in the region of the Floating Mountain sect. See la la. At this moment, the surrounding temperature dropped sharply. Many people looked around and widened their eyes. It turned out that the blade light did not hit Old Monster Blackwater, but the Blackwater Lake. At this time, the entire Blackwater Lake was frozen, and the 100-mile Blackwater Lake became an ice lake. A tall and burly young man stepped through the air and appeared on the other side of Blackwater Monster. He stood on either side of Lu Ming and surrounded Blackwater Monster in the middle. Chu Kuang. It's Chu Kuang. Someone exclaimed. Chu Kuang actually came too. This is going to be interesting. Could it be that Chu Kuang has also taken a fancy to the cleansing water lotus throne? While many people were shocked, their eyes also lit up. Chu Kuang, who was ranked second among the top 10 Heaven's Pride experts of the Floating Mountain Martial School, had appeared. Chu Kuang had a burly figure and was dressed casually. He carried a saber on his back. His gaze passed over Old Monster Blackwater and landed on Lu Ming. "You're Lu Shaoqing?" Chu Kuang asked. "Not bad." Lu Ming nodded. "I heard that you defeated Ling Yunkong and Hai Ziming." Chu Kuang asked again. "That's right. Do you want to stand up for them?" Lu Ming said. "You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.